Drop the beat.
I'm a never Trump guy. I'm a never Trump guy. I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. I'm a never Trump guy. 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 I'm a never Trump guy.
Good morning. Sorry if it seemed like I got the crap kicked out of me, but I did. So, hi Gen X, hi Kay, hi Terry. Basically, the wife. I don't care if it's a self docs. I'm back to school. Kids are going back to school today. Today? It's Monday. Why is my son still playing video games? I don't know. My son's either going back to school today or he's going back to school next week. I forget. But anyways, to celebrate the end of summer, we went to Disney. I had to walk around for 6 hours sweating because it's August. And I'll spare you the details, but basically let's just say I got friction burns. I got, I'm covered in sweat, very grumpy. There's lots of loud noises. There's lots of loud sounds. I'm riding rides that are jerking my neck around, and I got like soft tissue injuries and all that stuff. So I got my ass kicked yesterday. That's the too long didn't read. Disney kicked your ass? Hell yeah. Anybody who says that Disney in August doesn't kick their ass is either a freak or a liar. Joe Dazilla says, good morning, y'all. Yep. Good morning, Justin. Good to see you again. Jakaris, good morning. Rookie 11, hello. Fashion 40 says, isn't it next week? Maybe. I have no idea. Different counties do different county stuff. Kay says, wow, y'all start school early. We only go back on September. Interesting. Fashion 40 says, oh my God, sounds kind of fun though. Hope you got the fast pass. Nope. Waited in line like a peasant. Waited a minimum of 40 minutes for each ride. Like a peasant. But anyways. All right. I shouldn't complain about my good fortune. I have a family. I love my family. They make me do things that I don't want to do sometimes, and that's okay. That in and of itself is a blessing. Did you have a nice, refreshing butter beer? No, but I did have what did I have? It's a cheeseburger that my wife thought that I would like. It was mixed with Swiss cheese and not just Swiss cheese. It was like French onion soup and some roast beef. And it was supposed to be like, oh my God, it's so mind-blowing. But truth be told, French onion soup poured on top of a cheeseburger mixed with wet roast beef from the French onion soup just tastes like meatloaf. You know what I'm saying? So I basically had a meatloaf cheeseburger. It was very meh. Fashion 40 says this upcoming discussion will piss you off. Well, that's good. I need to get a little Swift kicked in the ass. Handsome Ben says Swiss is the goated burger cheese. I kind of agree. I think a nice Swiss burger hits, that's for sure. Handsome Ben says. All right. Anyways, today I'm going to suffer no matter what I do. So I might as well just begin the suffering. But I'll remind you. Yeah, Gen X's wet cheeseburger sounds disgusting. The good news is it wasn't so wet that it got into the bun. The bun was still fresh. But imagine roast beef put on top, like roast beef cooked in French onion soup, just slapped on top of your cheeseburger to the point that it's almost like a dressing, like the same way that you would do like ketchup or mustard. There's French onion soup, pate, roast beef. I don't know why people do that. What a nightmare. Fast and Bulba says, last time I barbecued with friends, they gave me a turkey burger. And we are no longer friends. Yeah, based. Jonas Ellis says, theme park food is pretty bad. Yeah, but Disney typically steps their game up because they know that people spend, literally tens of thousands of dollars in order to come. I'm a Florida resident and we got the annual passes and we've gone like 10 times since we got the annual passes, so we got our money's worth. But generally speaking, Disney actually does have decent food because they know that people spend a small fortune in order to stay there. Well, QC Jones says that sounds like Salisbury steak, not meatloaf. Maybe that's what I was thinking of. Kay says, my youngest baby is 5 today. Well, happy birthday to your baby. Let me know if you want me to sing to him, but I doubt he would appreciate it. So I sing to audience members because they'll appreciate it. I don't know if I'll sing to a 5-year-old who will never see it. That feels a little off. Gen X says, I got to take a picture with Destiny on Saturday and watch a live debate. The fact that Kafka showed up to a debate with him was icing on the cake. What was the live debate? Was it the Pangburn events? Because I have seen clips emerging from that event, and there was also that guy, that idiot who runs like a million sub YouTube channel that no one's ever heard of that routinely gets like 300 views. I'm not trying to talk too much smack without knowing what he's all about, but typically when I see that, it's somebody else got a million subs, and then they bought the channel thinking that all the subs will check out the new content, but they don't realize that subs sub to a channel for the content. And so as a result, nobody watches the new content, and so they get 99% reduced viewership. So Jakara says, I hate all the crazy burgers with tons of toppings that fall apart as soon as you take the first bite. Buy our $22.50 epic awesome burger that has 96 toppings. No, thank you. Yeah, what happened to American cheese, ketchup, mustard, mayo, pickles? You know what I'm saying? Well, QC says, I prayed to the grill gods this weekend. Kebabs, brat burgers, and rack of ribs smoked over hickory wood. Ooh. Dylan Thomas says, I missed it live and can't find a recording. I'm sure they'll release it shortly. Kaizen Domain says, hey, important questions. 1, you see the Mechanicus 2 leaks. 2, favorite Warhammer faction? Deathwatch into Pests and Scions. I didn't see the Mechanicus 2 leaks, but truth be told, if that's like an RTS or a turn-based or like a dungeon scroller or whatever, it's not that I don't think that stuff can be cool or fun. I just don't have time for it. I got time for third-person and first-person shooters. I'm a shooter boy. I'm a Halo and Call of Duty boy. I came up in the 2000s, like I grew up watching my brother play all of the Command & Conquer's real-time strategy games. I played Command & Conquer and StarCraft myself a little bit, but I grew up in the golden age of shooters. So Modern Warfare was released in the mid-thousands, late thousands, I want to say. I was playing Modern Warfare as I was leaving the military. And then Modern Warfare 2 came out, I don't know, like 9 or 10 or something like that. And that was my peak. That was my gaming peak, was the Modern Warfare series or the Call of Duty series back when it didn't suck. Deus Halcyon became a member and gifted 5 memberships. I haven't even done anything yet. Thank you, King. I appreciate your faith that I will be entertaining at some point today. That is excellent. Hopefully Deathwatch gets some buffs in 11th. Yeah, but rule of cool. It doesn't even matter if my army isn't good, that's fine. I'm playing a narrative, I'm moving little dudes on a tabletop filled with terrain and fight another army in order to build a story in my brain. That's what in my opinion, that's what Warhammer is to me. Like, I understand other people do win at any cost. They do cheesy stuff where they have like repulsor tanks fly up onto 3rd-story buildings so they can float there and have like reduced hit stats and all that. I think all that stuff is cringe. If they wouldn't use if the rules allow you to do something ridiculous, but the character in the lore would never do that thing, and you use that in order to win the game, I think you're lame. That's the best way that I can put it. In my opinion, Warhammer is not meant to be just like one for fun with cheesy rules. It's meant to be played as if you are a commander of the forces that you have painted. What's your thoughts on the new Battlefield? I hope it's good. Mr. Universe says, now I'm a gooner in gacha games. I don't even know what gacha is, truth be told. I don't even know what it is. Did you play Bolt Gun? Game was super sick. No, but people have continuously telling me like I have to, and I do. I need to play the Space Marine 1 remaster. I need to make another another lore breakdown similar to the way that I did Space Marine 2. Then I need to do Bolt Gun, and then I think I need to like redo the Dawn of War series and all that stuff as well. JL for 5. Thank you, King. Hey, Connor. Happy Monday from my wage cage. Have you watched Joy Toy 40K stop motion animation? Devastation of Baal is peak. I do like them. I don't think my audience will like them. So I like the stop motion movies because I can see the love poured into it. However, I think my audience will be like, oh, this is corny, and then they won't watch the breakdowns. Jonas Illis' gotcha games are gambling scams. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I play that on mobile, but I'm smart enough not to get scammed. Like I have a puzzle game that's effectively Candy Crush. I think it's Gardenscapes, and I just like I play the game, and then the puzzle is obviously rigged to you can beat like 5 simple puzzles, and then they have one puzzle that's so complicated that you can never beat it. But like once every 7 times you play it, you will beat it. And so it's meant to run you out of lives. So you pay them $2 to $5. But because I have self-discipline, because I'm a millennial and I was raised outside of the video game space for the first decade of my life, I actually have the discipline not to spend $2 to $5 on refilling my lives, and I just wait until I have new lives, and then I beat the level. I am sure the developers are watching my progress through the game, and they're like, God, this guy's so annoying. Just give us $2, please. But I'm like, no, I know you're cheating. I know you're cheating. Jonazilla says you pay to unlock a character or something that has a 0.003% drop chance. Yeah, no. I'm the annoying guy. I'm the annoying guy who doesn't refill. That's funny. That is funny. Marfin says, play Nike. Girls with guns who jiggle when they shoot. No. Go meet real girls who jiggle in different ways than Japanese anime boob art. Andy B says, I played the Royal Match one. I am out of levels. I've never paid for it. I just treated it like a daily fun event while on the toilet. Yep. All right. I suppose we should begin the suffering. Let us begin the ritual of suffering. Let me let my dogs in for the 50th time today. Number 1 of 50 of letting my dogs in and out of my room. Oh, no. Yes, come in, Bo. Thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you again, Bo. All right. And then let us say our prayers before the day begins. May your grills be hot. May your beers be cold. May you keep all your fingers and toes while blowing things up. Also, the colonial prayer. I thank the ancestors for conquering Asia and South America so that I might have this delicious coffee or tea. Amen. Now, I do have Diet Coke today, but for the people who are just drinking coffee or tea, I said the prayer on your behalf. All right. Let's suffer. Let's add this. All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Connor. I'm a science fiction, political, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran, and a never Trump Republican. I like breaking down alternative media and online politics. Today, I have a debate between Stephen Bennell, the liberal debate lord, and Ryan Mullally, who is a Republican lawyer who voted for Trump. Let's go.
This is the issue that I ran into. I think you don't think it's that bad. Wow, how's it going?
There we go. Pretty good. You?
I'm surviving one day.
I'm going to skip 20 minutes just because I think they're just like nice exchanging pleasantries over the Pixie case. And it's just like, Steven's like, yeah, it's going okay. I want to see if it gets dismissed. I actually want to get into the politics.
I understand the scale. The scale is one argument. Sure. And we can talk about the scale. I guess it's just a new weapon that we have now to use against our political enemies.
And so I guess the thing I'm going to say is that that is a calmer version. It's the mirror image of the arguments Rob was making at me from the right about all the terrible things that the Democrats have done and all the reasons why there must be political prosecutions to teach them a lesson so that the American people can go forward. And he even conceded that he thinks it is a better world, like if you could just be the czar of the universe, it's a better world if we don't have all these political prosecutions. But the only way to get it there in his mind is to go through the mud and to go through the process of dragging every Democrat before the House and bringing charges, all the congressional hearings and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We're in this weird political moment where both sides want to escalate, but neither elected representatives are going to. And what I mean by that is nothing ever happens. And in this moment, let's say that we place this into a time capsule. What's happened is Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have been suckered in by their own conspiratorial cult, which, by the way, I am one of the conspiracists, who believes that Jeffrey Epstein, a billionaire financier from New York, was running an underage sex ring that involved Donald Trump and other powerful people having sex with people from the age of 14 to 18. And then Jeffrey Epstein was using that as political blackmail in order to in order to gain clout, fame, leverage, et cetera, et cetera. That, I think, is actually pretty well demonstrated, even though it's a bunch of circumstantial evidence. And the only question is whether or not he served that information to intelligence communities for their benefit. That's the only thing that remains. Now, that's the albatross. That's the anchor around the Republicans' neck right now, is that the leader of the cult of the Republican Party at this time, because the Republican Party has become a cult, might be a pedophile. Now, on the left, the allegations from the Trump admin is that they took some intel that said that the Russian collusion in 2016 wasn't outcome determinative. And then they went back to the intelligence community and said, hey, we want a narrative where the Russians actually did do damage during this electoral process so we can harangue Trump for the next few years, rewrite these reports. Which, by the way, I don't even know if that's illegal. If it's an earnestly held belief, I don't know how that would be illegal, but I also haven't dug into the details. So the Trump admin is promising that we're going to have all these criminal convictions and prosecutions. Actually, the Trump admin isn't promising that. All their sycophants are promising that, but it seems like a distraction away from the pedophile ring. So we're currently being led by pedophiles who are accusing the other side of corruption. And so far, no one's going to jail.
I agree with Rob 100%. We just disagree on the facts.
Oh yeah. So I mean, but that's what I mean. Like I think that, the reason why whenever I talk about this, I get like, you can tell when you're actually occupying a centrist position because you get just endless from both sides and nobody's your friend.
Well, do you think at this point, do you think that Kamala or Trump would have been better, at least insofar as rule of law is concerned in the United States?
Oh my God. If we're gonna do this again. Oh, sorry, not again. I haven't done it with you. I did like 10 hours on these hypos with Pisco. So
sure.
This is
well, so just to be sure, but we don't have to do it because you don't have a centrist position. You have the MAGA position on this, right? If you think that they're even remotely equivalent, like if you had to rank from 1 to 10 how bad Trump's rule of law violation has been, and then 1 to 10 how bad either Biden's was or how bad you think Kamala's would have been.
I think Trump's been. I think things have changed. We haven't spoken in a while. Like since we spoke, and I can't remember the exact date, but it was a while ago. Trump's administration's position on particularly freedom of speech, and also things have changed, but like to a lesser extent due process as well, and general rule of law has been quite bad. Like, the facts got a lot worse.
Sure,
So,
I wouldn't say quite bad. I would say the worst in all of American history. I think. I don't know.
I don't agree with this. R. Hickernail says, Connor, isn't Putin on tape in 2018 saying he muddled the waters in the elections and wanted Trump to win? Yeah, that's one of the contradictory things about Stephen Bennell, the StarCraft streamer. That's awesome, Nilcan. That's awesome. Isn't Putin on tape? Yeah. That's the other thing is, like, I'm pretty sure there's just evidence that Russia was trying to screw with us during the election. And I think that the intelligence reports don't say that Russia didn't screw with us during the election. They just weren't outcome determinative. That's like the only differentiation. So, like, okay, so it wasn't outcome determinative, but the Russians were still screwing with us, and it seems like Trump was overly comfortable with the Russians. And so you're hyperbolic about your narrative that Trump and Russia are friends. And problem, like people mudsling all the time. What was it? Like Jimmy Carter was a traitor to the United States of America by like cozying up and trying to negotiate with Iran. Reagan was credibly accused and actually probably did cozy up to the Sandinistas, or excuse me, the Contras, the Contras in, was it Nicaragua, in order to fight the Sandinistas. And also he cozied up to Iran and Iraq in the 80s for his own ends. Like, okay. And everybody is too friendly with the Qataris. Problem. But anyways, the point being that it seems like the Republicans have a fistful of nothing right now. That's what it seems like to me. And morning, folks. Shelly and gang. Hi, Beef Supreme. And then Dr. Play Doctor says, who's enjoying vacation out in the forests of Appalachia? This guy. Hope you had a good weekend and enjoy the video. It's a great one. It helped explain to my friend why originalism is awesome. Sick. Yeah, I like Ryan. Ryan's smart cookie.
It's ever been this bad, ever.
Oh, sorry, real quick. Steven's wrong. The last time it was this bad was the presidency of Andrew Jackson, where I think Andrew Jackson was a governor or something at the time, or a state senator or a senator, something like that. But the Trail of Tears was going down, and the Supreme Court, ruled like, hey, the Trail of Tears is illegal as fuck. And I think Andrew Jackson, even though he wasn't personally involved, or maybe he was, I forget the details, but he's like, oh yeah, the Supreme Court made their ruling, now let them enforce it. And then federal troops just kept doing the ethnic cleansing in Florida against the ruling of the Supreme Court of the United States. So it's pretty bad. We're in a pretty bad position, but I don't know if it's as bad as when we were doing ethnic cleansing while ignoring the Supreme Court of the United States, or the Civil War. Obviously, Civil War was a lot worse as far as, I don't know, people ignoring the rule of law of the federal government of the United States.
It kind of depends on how you view like rounding up people and putting them in camps, because American history has some dark chapters. But
there you go. Good job, Brian. You and I are one. You and I are same.
There were better. We had better reasons to round up Japanese people and put them in camps during World War II than we did to say that we're at war with Venezuela, and that's why we have the Alien Enemies Act. I think the Japanese internment camps were more.
Yeah, but hella illegal, Stephen. Hella illegal.
Defensible than the invocation of the Alien Enemies Act. Do you disagree with that?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. But for the sake of making it through the content, I'm going to shut up now.
Yes, because I think the Japanese internment camps were, and we have to get stats on this, but like my gut read of history is that they were sweeping in a way that is not comparable to what's happening here. Like that really was, you were just being rounded up on the basis of your nationality, and it was being done on a scale that dwarfs what's happening now. That's my understanding of it.
Benefit of the Alien Enemies Act is it can be done on basis of nationality. Now, there were way more, I don't know if it was just Japanese, it might have been all Asian citizens or some of the United States, but definitely Japanese. But like if you were a Venezuelan national, you can just be rounded up and deported, not put in a camp, but deported to CCOT as well, right? You're not even staying in the US until this can be, figured out. You're getting deported to a crazy place in El Salvador, right?
No, this is the thing. The other thing that I've been pissing off MAGA people with when I pointed out recently is that, like, if you are someone who's pro deportations, and let's just assume for the sake of argument that's what we're talking about right now. Like,
all right, sorry, I have to jump in because I'm a history nerd. Okay, so what happened in World War II was we got hit with Pearl Harbor, but not only were we hit with Pearl Harbor, there was some incident that happened in Hawaii. You can Google it. I forget the name of it, but if you Google like Japanese pilot Hawaii World War II, you'll find it. And what happened was one of the Japanese pilots who got shot down over Hawaii was actually hidden by American citizens and Japanese immigrants within the United States. Like, this dude got shot down. He's an enemy. He just shot, like, he would participate in a bombing run that killed 3,000 Americans. And there were local Japanese people who helped hide him from from soldiers and from law enforcement. And so that was like a huge betrayal. Like where we're like, what the fuck? Why do we even have these people? Bear in mind, we're probably racist as shit. But why are we going to have these people as our co-nationalists, as our co-citizens, when they help the enemy openly? And so that, along with rumors, which I think these rumors weren't confirmed, but there were rumors that there were Japanese submarines off of the coast of California. Those rumors helped fuel the fear that Japan was actually capable of a invasion or at least attacks on the west coast of the United States. And so what they did is they took all the people of Japanese descent from the west coast and they said, hey, you can't live here anymore. You can't have your property. You can't live day to day. You can't do what you want to do. We're actually going to round you up and put you in internment camps. And so we put them in internment camps in the middle of the desert. And then what happened was the conditions were bad. People died from like medical issues that were preventable. Like, people had heart attacks and they died randomly. People had strokes. They died randomly. People got pneumonia. They died randomly. It was just bad conditions. And then a few young people, mostly young men, tried to escape because the conditions were so bad, and they were shot and killed. Now, after all those incidents, a lot of the Japanese citizens in those internment camps are like, hey, you're treating us like cattle. This shit is fucking evil, and you've killed some of our sons, and we're still American citizens. We're still U.S. citizens, and most of us have nothing to do with this fucking war. Please treat us like human beings. And so what ended up happening is the conditions in the camps improved over time. And then by the time that it was like the end of the war, because bear in mind, the war was like, I don't know, 41 to 45. So it was like 4 years, right? By the end of the war, like, they had like buses that would take the teenagers to school. And they had buses that would take college age people to colleges. And so it was still an internment camp, but it wasn't like German concentration camp. And I do think it was more sweeping than what we're doing to Venezuelans right now. And I actually think, weirdly enough, it's during the early stages, it's probably comparable conditions to Sukkot. So, anyways, there's your historical rant.
So we can get past the policy for a second. Let's say that's your goal. This idea that you can deport people into prisons is super bad, is long term. It's super dangerous for even that goal, because the whole legal framework around why you can deport people is that it's not a penalty, so they don't need criminal levels of due process. That's why you can have like a quick hearing and then out you go. If you're sending someone to a camp or a prison, the Supreme Court is going to demand more due process. And they've been signaling this, that like they have some concerns about the due process aspects of this. So like long term, you're actually going to create the roadblock towards your own policy goal.
People want me to point out that it was only 2 Japanese nationals. Somebody says Japanese Americans. Somebody else says they're Japanese nationals. So, yeah. So it was just 2. Two people were assholes, and that resulted in all West Coast Japanese people getting punished.
by doing this. Like,
sure, that's fine, but just to, I agree with you on this. But so, like, there was a better reason to intern Japanese citizens during World War II than there was to deport Venezuelans. Like, we were actually at war with Japan. We're not at war with Venezuela, right?
Okay. Sorry for pausing so much. It's my stream, though. So if you don't like me pausing so much and talking so much, you can go fuck yourself. So the thought process behind the Alien Sedition Act with Venezuela is that there are organizations that are so violent and so shitty, like MS-13, like Tren de Agua. Tren de Agua specifically being a Venezuelan gang that is allegedly in cahoots with the Venezuelan central government. Tren de Agua. So the accusation is that Tren de Agua is hired out as thugs whenever there's a too much protesting in the Venezuelan streets. The government actually hires the gangs to run around throwing Molotov cocktails and shooting at the protesters to get them to disperse. So it's like extrajudicial violence against protesters within Venezuela. And then, of course, they're engaged in drug trafficking, human trafficking, executions, assassinations, extortion, all the normal gang shit. And so the argument to invoke the Aliens and Seditions Act is these are such bad hombres that we can have an expedited due process where if somebody is a member of Tren de Agua or a member of MS-13, all we need to do is find them, detain them, and deport them. Now, the problem, as far as I understand, is that we're using this to deport every Venezuelan. We are not confirming that they are members of gangs. We are not confirming that they are members of MS-13. We're just detaining and deporting anybody who has tattoos and is Venezuelan. So that's kind of like the evil shit about it.
Agree that we're not at war with Venezuela, not invading us.
I think that's true. The point I was making is that
Johnny Blaze says, what are your thoughts on COINTELPRO? Andrew Callahan just did this amazing video on Leonard Peltier. I would actually have to watch it to see what the abuses are, but my instinct is to just hate communists. So I don't know if it's... I might be more sympathetic to the counterintelligence agencies than I will be to the citizens having their rights violated, but I would have to know the details.
That the number of Japanese citizens who were...
I understand the scale was larger, but I mean, ignoring scale, like...
And the number of people who were impacted who had no loyalty to the Japanese Empire.
I understand the scale. The scale is one argument, sure. And we can talk about the scale, I guess. That would be the only saving grace. But the invocation of the Alien Enemies Act here is completely unhinged. And then the deporting them to a foreign prison, not putting them in camp in the United States until we figure out what we're doing, but deporting them to a prison, I think it's worse. We can argue that the internment camps maybe were worse because of the scale of it, but
there we go.
Weren't deporting these people into torture camps, and we at least had it was like World War II. It was arguably some kind of existential war for at least Europe.
Yeah. I think we're glossing a pretty major detail. And again, this is I haven't looked at this history in a long time, but to my recollection, Japanese citizens, American citizens, were being put into camp on the basis of their ethnicity. So that's a little different than a non-citizen.
I think that's more extreme than a non-citizen getting detained and deported. Now, you can argue that Sakat is very fucked up, and I'm not going to disagree with you. But I do think that there is a difference in category between citizens and non-citizens. I actually think that the entire internment camps were probably constitutionally illegal.
And being deported, yeah?
Wasn't it required to show some citizen trace for the World War II for the internment camps for the Japanese?
I don't want to go on a huge limb here. My recollection was that citizenship was not like a factor. I thought it was just nationality. If you could be a Japanese American citizen and then you wouldn't go into camp, that would be a good argument in favor of your position. But I think it was the other way around. I wouldn't, but I need to look at it.
Okay. You had some tie to, so it says Japanese and Japanese Americans, so second generation Japanese people, which would be American citizens.
But I mean, okay, so that's a pretty big difference, right?
It is a big difference, but it's still more defensible than saying that we're at war with Venezuela.
Listen, dude, I'm gonna call bullshit on this. I'm gonna call bullshit. Okay, deporting Okay, finding Venezuelans and deporting Venezuelans to Central America, to Sicut, is fucked up. I need you to hear me when I said that, okay? Chat, do you hear me? Do you hear me that I said that it's fucked up? Okay. Now imagine that after 9/11, we just detained everyone. Let's use nationality. Let's not even use religion. Let's say that we detained everybody from Saudi Arabia and put them in camps for a decade while we fought the war on terror. And people in my chat are like, "Oh yeah, well, we were at war." It's like, "Okay. Are you sure?" Like, are you sure you want to use the "we're at war"? Yeah, like what the fuck? I think you guys are coping. I think you guys are coping like crazy. Kazra Che says, disagree. Christian Valera says, I was wrong. Yoshia Harada and his wife, Irene Harada, were both born on Hawaii, making them U.S. citizens, but another Japanese national, Ishimatsu Shintani, immigrated to Hawaii. Yeah, it was something crazy where, like, I think it was like 2 or 3 people hid the Japanese pilot, and then the Japanese pilot did have a gun, and they didn't force him to surrender any of his weapons. And then I think some of the cops showed up, and then, like, when the cops showed up, they got into a gunfight, and the Japanese pilot killed a few people. I forget. Andy B says, both are bad. Racially locking up your citizens for their crime of being Asian is worse than sending people who are all broke in the same law to a third world prison. Yeah, I think we can break bread on the fact that it's both pretty messed up, right? Like, do we have to argue? I think we're all on the same page, right? We're all on the same page. Like, even if Steven, I feel, is like wrong on the fact that he thinks that what we're doing right now is more messed up than the internment camps. I think the internment camps are more messed up than the Sakat stuff. But can we agree that they're both messed up? Can we break bread on that? If by effed up you mean unconstitutional and un-American, then yes, it's effed up. Yeah. So 3 people helped the pilot. Okay, cool. That would be like 30 people, lol. Sure. Conservative liberalism says Saudi Arabia. We were busy pretending they had nothing to do with it. It was Afghanistan, remember? Well, truth be told, the Saudis were the financiers. For those of you, can I do this real quick? Can I do a geopolitical rant? I know I'm all over the place, but, like, can I do a geopolitical rant? Can I do a paint? Don't you guys love paint? Don't you love it when Destiny paints? I love it when Destiny paints. So let's say that we have Saudi Arabia. Then we got Iran, some cringe shape like this. Then we got Afghanistan, which is another cringe shape like this, okay? So Saudi Arabia has Mecca and Medina, and I forget exactly where they are, but let's just say that they're Mecca and Medina are somewhere in here, right? And so there's a shitload of rich people in here. Well, the Soviets invaded Afghan. And so Osama bin Laden, who is the son of a construction magnate, and I'm saying magnate, Magnate, magnate. He's basically like, bin Laden is Trump in Saudi Arabia. Okay. Osama bin Laden, just think about it that way. The way that I associate Trump prior to the presidency with real estate development is the way that the name bin Laden is associated in Saudi Arabia. It just means like commercial royalty, like billionaires, multi billionaires. And so in Afghanistan, they're fighting the Soviets. And so what ends up happening is Osama bin Laden, he's like, oh man, the kafirs, the disbelievers, they're invading the Ummah, the Muslim territory, right? And so he flies to Afghanistan, specifically Eastern Afghanistan, and he builds a network with the Taliban, which are the Pashto, Hazara. These are ethnic groups. Hazara are like ethnic Persians who speak their own language. Pashto are the Taliban. Or actually, Pashto might be the language. Pashtun might be the people. I forget. But then the Northern Alliance is Turk people from Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, and there's another stan in here. But effectively, the Northern Alliance is like 3 ethnic groups. The Pashtun are a dominant southeastern ethnicity, and then the Hazara are a western ethnicity. But Osama bin Laden fights the Soviets over here, and he's running a base of operations out of the Pashtun Taliban-controlled areas, but he still communicates with Saudi Arabia and recruits Saudis to come and fight against the Soviets, but also to give money. And so while a shitload of Saudis are friendly to America because they like selling us oil and they like being billionaires and they want us to protect them from big bad Iran whenever Iran starts saber rattling that they're going to invade. And then this is Iraq, by the way. So Saudi Arabia actually doesn't hate us that bad. But there are members of Saudi society that do resent the American presence. And so they provide money to the Mujahideen that ultimately become Al-Qaeda and then do international terrorist attacks against the United States of America. And so that's why it's this fucking mess. This is why we didn't invade Saudi Arabia, but we did invade Afghanistan. Is because Osama bin Laden, this is a terrible drawing, but Osama bin Laden, he worked with the Taliban in order to institute like a Islamic theocratic state in Afghanistan, but he got his financing and support and recruited jihadists from Saudi Arabia. That's the relationship. Anyways, thank you for tolerating my severely under-caffeinated geopolitical rant.
I think, like, for example, like if the policy of the Trump administration was to deport American citizens of Venezuelan descent, that would be an order of magnitude worse than what he's doing.
Well,
like,
but that's kind of
clearly,
so. But without the due process, which the Alien Enemies Act allows him to evade, I mean, that's kind of what he has the power.
Sorry, Mr. Universe says they didn't legit lock them up because they're, oh my god, Japanese. That's where you're wrong. Mr. Universe, I think you're absolutely fucking wrong. I don't think you know what you're talking about.
Power to do now, right? It
doesn't. It doesn't allow them to do that. There are the Alien Enemies Act. Sorry, my kid's screaming in the background. Yeah, you can hear that. Whether or not there's an invasion or a war, there's these different predicates, and whether or not there are alien enemies, those are. Well, I have a bet with P-Scope on this, but I'm pretty sure those are non-justiciable. I don't think we know for sure, but probably they're at his discretion. The due process part isn't. The Supreme Court, I think, has been pretty clear that the due process point, like if they're pressed on that, they're going to, that is an issue that the court can rule on. Did you provide adequate due process? Now, due process doesn't require a lot in this area. It could be a very quick hearing. It's not like a trial, right? But the courts are definitely not deferring to him on whether or not due process needs to be followed.
Sure. I'm not, it gets weird around the justiciable part. Is that the issue that they're fighting about right now in court? Because I think, I don't remember if, because if you say the initial invocation is non-justiciable, you get into really weird areas about that. Regardless of where they fall in the legality for the invocation of the Alien Enemies Act, I feel like if you look at the situation of the scenario and everything going on, like, I'm not going to defend internment camps or whatever for Japanese in World War II, but like there is a understandable world where somebody would do that isn't just purely motivated by racial hatred, that doesn't involve like an outright lie. We were, at least my understanding is, we were at war, a relatively existential war with Japan in World War II. We're not at war with Venezuela. We're not being invaded by Venezuela. The invocation of that act, and we're not using this to just arrest people and round them up or deport them. We're using it to deport them into like prisons in El Salvador. I won't, whether they're concentration camps or they torture people there or not. I mean, we can argue about it. I mean, it seems like most people agree that.
I don't think we need to argue about it because I think that there's allegations of like physical abuse and sodomy and social isolation and solitary confinement and beatings and stress positions and all that stuff. There's allegations of all of that coming out of Sukkot. So if you want to say that Sukkot is worse in degree, where the people who are deported to Sukkot are treated more poorly than on average the Japanese Americans who were detained, I'll agree with you. But if we're talking about scale, where a shitloads more Japanese citizens were detained and imprisoned, then I think that on a scale, and also the Japanese were US citizens, which is a category difference, then I would say the violence involved in Sakut is worse. The scale for the Japanese internment is worse. And then the violation of a citizen's due process is worse. And then somebody asked if I had a recommendation for Geopol. My recommendation is Robert Kaplan. So The Revenge of Geography is fire. Asia's Cauldron book is fire. What is it? Imperial Grunts, Robert Kaplan is fire. I basically read this guy's entire book series, and he has geopolitical analysis. So he's not a geographic determinist. A lot of people would accuse him of being a geographic determinist, where the landscape determines like politics. But I think he actually does stress a decent balance. I would start with The Revenge of Geography, then I would go to Imperial Grunts, and then if you're still enjoying yourself, then I would go to Asia's Cauldron and all that kind of stuff. But the point is that I feel like this is sufficiently geographic determinist, where it says that geography helps influence politics, but it does leave room for individual agency as well. So, yeah.
That is the case for Sakut. That just seems insane to me. And also, like, even if we were to go back and forth on this and slightly disagree, the fact that this argument started because I said, I think that Trump has done with this some of the worst stuff in all of U.S. history. And the argument we're having right now is, well, was it worse than one of the worst things, arguably, we've done with civil rights in U.S. history, which is...
Exactly. I don't think it matters. I think we can both agree that it's bad and move on.
The internment of Japanese...
Oh, no.
We're
totally autism broing like a really minor point. Like, just...
True.
Kind of for fun. Like, I don't think there's an argument that Trump has been like good on rule of law. He's been terrible.
I'm not arguing that he's been good on rule of law. I'm arguing that he's one of the worst in U.S. history.
I just said he was terrible. If my superlatives aren't good enough for you, I don't know what to say. But like,
okay, well, I only say that because like all the Joe Biden stuff is brought up in the same breath, or like that Kamala would have been worse, or like equivalent, and I don't think it's even remotely the same. So that's why I asked you, like, do you think that Kamala would have been worse for rule of law than Trump? And I don't know in what world we're even remotely equivalent here. If we agree that Trump is doing some of the worst stuff ever, like, what do we think Kamala or Biden would have done that would be any remotely similar?
But I don't.
True. Monty Spa 69 says Connor fucking points, bruh. Love you too, brother.
I mean, we got into this on the subject of like, how does this play out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what happens when these investigations become the norm? When we start hearing, we start every presidency, the next guy gets into office, orders the DOJ to investigate his predecessor, investigate his family. You get Trump posting on Truth Social to investigate Obama now. Like, in that world, I think, we're really, really degrading the rule of law. I think we agree on that, right? It's a very bad world to be in, and I would like to get out of that world. Now, you and Rob Noor apparently agree on the only way out is through. I'd like there to be some other option. Like, maybe people are like, at some point, this is his last term. We say, okay, we're done with him. Can we find some other norm going forward that's not going to be so bat crazy? Because this, I don't think, is going to work. I think this is really destructive. If people who grew up in this grew up and said, yeah, American criminal law is kind of bullshit. The federal government just investigates people politically. I wouldn't be mad about them saying that. I'd say, oh, we can do so much better. But like, holy, like, it does seem like that is what we do now. And that's a shitty place to be. And I am very interested in getting out of this mess. Maybe this is, in your mind, the best way through. I don't know.
Well, the thing is that like we have to agree on some factual reality to escape it. And if we think that both parties have been even remotely similar, like that's just never going to happen. Like, this is the end. I would argue that Trump's lawfare in his first term was already.
Hey, Zero Fucks, good to see you. I like Ryan. Yeah, so far he hasn't said anything crazy in my book. Some people were telling me that I mislabeled this. Well, I guess I just did Destiny versus Lawyer, so I didn't specify that he was MAGA. I might have introduced him as a MAGA lawyer, but I think that's because he no longer identifies as a Democrat. I think he might have actually said that he voted Democrat for 20 years before switching parties or becoming independent. So I'd have to talk to Ryan about where he's at these days. But Zero Fucks, good to see you.
Grossly unacceptable. I would argue that Biden in his second term, despite trying to be the come together and be the president for all Americans man, still gets lambasted as being about as bad as Trump. And now that we're in Trump's second term, I would argue that we've seen the worst that we have seen in all of U.S. history in several different ways. And now we're like,
you would have to articulate worst in history. Again, I would cite like Andrew Jackson, Japanese internment, Civil War, et cetera, et cetera. I think there's worse moments in history, but I would say it's like top 5, top 10 for sure.
After this, like, okay, well, hopefully after this, things can go back to normal. Like as a Democrat, and at this point, I would vote for the unhinged. I'm going to be honest, this is very personal, okay? I actually came 15 times last night when I saw that tweet that Gavin Newsom was going to gerrymander the out of every conservative out of California. I actually sat in my bathroom and I jerked my for 15 orgasms when I saw that. So I was so happy that there is somebody in this country that wants to put Republicans on the same playing field. The fact that we had the...
Yeah, I don't think that's good. That being said, I would view it as I would actually view Gavin Newsom gerrymandering. For those of you who don't know, okay? Gerrymandering districts is a way to draw maps in order to screw people over. That's what you do. So let's say Mandarin map. So let's say that there's a black neighborhood. Okay. And let's say that it fits, across three different areas. Let's say 18, 20, and 26 are the gerrymandered districts. Okay. So the way that you would screw over this black neighborhood that's disproportionately going to vote Democrat is you would divide them. If they were all in one district, let's say they were all in District 18, they would flip 18 blue. And so blue would be basically the Democrats would get a seat. So the way that you screw them over is you draw the map arbitrarily so that it splits the black neighborhood into 3 different Republican-controlled districts. So instead of getting 1 Democrat seat, you get 3 Republican seats, right? That's like the vibe of gerrymandering as far as I understand. So what's going on right now is Texas is arguing to gerrymander the map to the point that there are I think no Democratic districts. It's actually crazy. Texas gerrymandering. It's supposed to be so bad. Yeah. They're going to leave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're going to leave 5 gerrymandered districts. Whereas before, there's 10, 15 somewhere in there. And Texas is a red state. So what California is arguing is oh, we're going to do the same thing, because if you're going to eliminate half a dozen Democratic representative seats, then we'll just do that to Republicans. And so that's what Stephen is talking about, where it's well, tit for tat. The normal tit for tat is just let Republicans do crazy gerrymandering and just the Democrats be oh, well, that's bad. That's bad, but we're not going to do anything. We're not going to do anything because that's bad. And then Stephen is saying that I'm not even going to repeat his vulgar statement, but he's saying that he is enthusiastic. He's very enthusiastic about the fact that Gavin Newsom is doing turnabout is fair play. Zero Fucks says, my first contact with Ryan was actually on your stream. That's dope. Monty Spa says, apparently the lawyer guy is going to debate Econoboy as well. Excellent. Good morning, Valor Media Network. Good morning to you, the neutral web optimist man. Mr. Universe says, when Biden was one of the best based, just simply fact that he got stuff done. Yeah, cool. SB says, oh, hey, it's the guy who totally isn't a Trump supporter. Which one, Ryan or me? Yeah, I'm obviously not. Brad Zero says, what side are you on, Chad Centrist or Gnome? I need to see more. Probably Chad Centrist so far, I'm not going to lie. But anyways, let's continue. Quick shill time. Like the stream, share it with your friends, comment and chat. Lots of funny, interesting people having a good time in there. Super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. Parasocially love you for being here. Let's continue.
The Gore with Bush and that election tossed. The fact that we had a lost Supreme Court pick under Obama, and then that is whatever. And then the insanity that was, there were two different special counsels under Biden investigating him and his son at the same time, where when Trump came in office to kill.
This is cope to me. Sorry, I have to interrupt. I know I literally said I needed to get through the content, but this is cope to me. Yeah, I know my chat isn't going to agree with me on this. My standard would be Hunter Biden should be investigated for trading influence. So should Jared Kushner. So should Hillary Clinton. You shouldn't be able to get a position of public office and then take millions, if not tens of millions of dollars from overseas. Jared Kushner got billions with a B. He's running a $2 billion Saudi investment fund. You shouldn't be allowed to do that as a federal official. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if it's legal. I don't give a fuck about any of your arguments about, oh, well, you know, Jared Kushner did this, so Hunter Biden should be able to do this. I'm just going to summarize the entire argument and say, fuck you. Don't sweep for corruption. Boom. There you go.
Investigation on him and his people around him, and then pardon all of them after their convictions. To have another term of Trump where we've seen, and we walk through any number of these, insanity, and then it's like, wow, I hope the Democrats take us back to normalcy. I'm like, nah, I hope that at least like the methods of whatever capital punishment are at least fun to watch on TV. Like, I don't understand why anybody who's a quote unquote centrist or Republican would ever expect any Democrat to come back and be like, okay, well, let's play by the rules now. Because I wouldn't expect any Republicans to. Why would I have any reason to? They haven't paid any consequences. None of them have suffered at all for any of the insanity over the past like 25 years. Like most of the Republicans still think the 2020 election was stolen. Like how do you come back in that world?
Well, I mean, they're not going to suffer, right? Like, I mean, that's what I mean. Like, he's going to pardon everybody. So you're not going to get any of these people to in an investigation. Like, it's just not going to happen. But, and I think that, and this plays a little bit into your like Hutch, Pisco, Econoboy thing. Shout out, I'm going to be debating Econoboy on whether socialism is immoral next week. Our schedules don't line up, so I'm trying to find the time, but we'll do that. That should be fun.
McDevin says, Connor, it'd be nice to see you do a deep dive on how the Republican Party has changed. Yeah, here's the thing, McDevin. I don't know if the Republican Party was ever what I thought it was. Okay? I don't know if they were ever what I thought it was, because let me tell you this. So in the 1980s, there was this propaganda about how the welfare state was restraining the American economy and dragging us down, and welfare queens were abusing the system and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure that's true to some degree. But I think that statistically, it probably didn't bear out that this was like the national emergency the way that it was portrayed. And Reagan used that as a pretext with which to absolutely take a fire axe to the social safety net, to the degree that now that we just have like endless homeless people, endless drug consumption, and like all of the public spaces in any downtown metropolitan area are effectively, in my opinion, they're bars where young people go to drink and be fancy and wear nice clothes. And then immediately within a block or two, there's just like drug addict encampments where people who are perpetually addicted to heroin and methamphetamine and all that kind of stuff, they just live in tents and do hard drugs. And so every downtown area has become a blight of schizophrenia, madness, and hard drug consumption. And I do blame like the shutdown of public hospitals on that. And so, but then after that, the narrative was like, okay, well, we're the fiscal conservatives. We're the people who care about the budget. And it's like, okay, we cared about the budget, but Bill Clinton was the one who actually balanced it. And then we ran up the deficit during the war on terror and didn't seem to give two shits about the national debt, to the point that the national debt now, it's like, it's not even a conversation of whether or not we're paying it back. We're not paying it back. We're just running up the tab and then hoping that the house of cards never falls down. That's national debt now. And then social conservatism, I think, could be a thing amongst Republican voters, where Republican voters want you to be monogamous and heterosexual and take care of your kids and take care of your community. But how can you say that with a straight face when the head of a party is an accused fucking ephebophile, right? The head of the party, the leader of the Trump cult, is Trump. And Trump during the 80s and 90s is credibly accused of hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. And Jeffrey Epstein is in turn credibly accused of soliciting girls from flyover states who were aged 14 to 18, recruiting them into sex acts. And then Donald Trump and all of his rich buddies were banging fucking 14-year-olds throughout the 1980s and 1990s, and maybe as recent as the thousands. How the fuck can that be a part of a social conservative movement? And so for me, this isn't window dressing. This is the way that I was raised. But the Republican Party has totally hollowed out any of the values that my parents told me about when I was a fucking kid. And what's funny is people still cope about fiscal conservatism in reference to Republicans. People still cope about social conservatism when it comes to Republicans. People still cope about Reaganite militarism when it comes to Republicans. And yet it seems like we've abandoned all of the principles. So I don't know, man. I don't know how to explain it. It's like Hannibal Lecter. Yeah. Have you guys ever seen the Office episode where Dwight is doing a CPR class and he like stabs the dummy in order to recover its vital organs, and then skins its face, and then starts wearing the face, walking around, and he's like, "Hello, Clarice," and then he like licks the air. That's what I feel like Donald Trump did to the Republican Party. It's actually horrifying.
But when I look at the political landscape, and you can tell me if you disagree, I think Trump's superpower, after all this time, and there's a few things he's very good at politically, but his true superpower is that he found a way to get the unhinged portion of the right to vote, and to vote for him. Like the QAnon crowd. Like, I mean, these are not people who were voting previously, right? They are.
LB says Hunter Biden was investigated to death under both Trump 1.0 and Biden's DOJ. Yeah, and then he ended up with 3 felonies, 6 misdemeanors, 1 felony gun charge. And then they missed out on 3 or 4 felonies from the 2014-2015 tax year that they didn't charge him with. And then he got pardoned. So, yeah. Yeah, you fucking pussies. You guys are such sweepers. Listen, I get that I have a large DGG crossover, and Rises has donated before, so I'm not going to be too mean. You're like, wait, Connor, the Bidens have been investigated already. Been investigated back and forth for 5 years plus. Yeah, and then they got finally hit with felonies and misdemeanors, and then they got pardoned. And your point? Rises, you just don't like the result. Yeah, you're right. I don't like that somebody was charged with felonies and misdemeanors related to tax evasion and corruption, and then they got pardoned. Yeah, you're right. I don't like that. Yeah. I'm saying Jared Kushner should also be investigated, even though I think he's a smart guy. Smart and nice guy, by the way. I think Jared Kushner should be investigated. I think the Clintons should be investigated. 100%. What are you talking about? You guys are crazy. You guys are crazy. You're like, well, my guy is uwu and cutesy, and your guy is cringe. I hate that. Dude, I'm not going to lie. I hate that in my chat. JL says, Connor, both sides bad take incoming. No one likes Hunter. Connor, both side bad take. No one likes Hunter. It's an old straw man to avoid the chief crook Trump. To compare crackhead Biden to Trump is your cope. JL, you're saying that while LB and Rises are saying like, oh, Hunter's just a cutesy boy. He's uwu. Hunter Biden is kawaii. No, don't investigate my cute kawaii uwu fucking Hunter Biden, bro. You can't, dude, you can't have people telling me that like, no, we don't care about Hunter, throw him under the bus. And then literally 3 chats beforehand is Hunter Biden is my sweet little cuddle boy. You leave him alone. Oh, you guys are crazy. Don't gaslight me. Don't gaslight me.
the mirror image of the crazy tanky socialists on the left-hand side, of the spectrum who
True. Get him, Ryan. Get him.
never vote Democrat. And he found a way to mobilize them.
Monty Spa says, wasn't that welfare clean meme largely based off of one insane black chick? Yeah, and she like defrauded her state of like a few $100,000. It was driving a Cadillac and had a chinchilla, coat and all that kind of shit. Yeah, like they based it off this one chick who abused the fuck out of the system, and they used that as nationwide propaganda for like 2 years.
As long as that vote's in play, unhinged behavior is going to get rewarded. I don't know what else to say, because like that vote likes some unhinged. Just like, honestly, like if Hassan's crowd voted, they'd love some unhinged too. Like that's just who these people are. If that crowd stops voting, like they used to not vote when Trump's no longer in the picture, like they didn't really vote when he wasn't on the ballot, like in midterms.
True.
That might be a path to normalcy, because I think the new thing in American politics is that they're voting. I don't think that ever happened before.
So
that's actually, it's a weird thing where like young men crazy voted in the previous election, but I don't think they're going anywhere. I think they're going to be politically active no matter what.
issue is that the unhinged portion of the right that's voting for Trump is basically 95% of the Republican Party. Trump has, within the Republican Party, some of the highest approval ratings of any president in history, despite the fact that he has some of the lowest overall approval ratings, the second lowest. The first lowest was him in his first term right now. That something is fundamentally broken there, and I think it's a mistake to view it as just Trump. I think that McConnell saying that they were going to force Obama to be a one-term president, I think that McConnell refusing to even have a Senate hearing for Merrick Garland as an Obama Supreme Court pick, despite...
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Rises for HK38 says, has the Bidens already been investigated for like 5 years plus? It seems like you don't like the answer. Rises, put this in your pipe and fucking smoke it, okay? Hunter Biden was charged with 3 tax evasion felonies, 6 misdemeanors. There were another 2 or 3 felonies that were allowed to pass the statute of limitations for expiration related to the 2014-2015 tax years. He was on the verge of being prosecuted and convicted, and then he was pardoned. So if I say, yes, the Bidens were investigated, and yes, Hunter got in trouble, but his daddy pardoned him at the last minute, what you say changes nothing. And there was also like, and by the way, here's another thing that pisses me off. Y'all were sweeping the whole time. Don't tell me like, oh yeah, well, justice served. You guys were complaining the whole time. You're like, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. Hunter Biden is woo, he's kawaii. He has a huge dong. Leave him alone. Who doesn't smoke a little bit of crack and bang a few whores every now and then? That was your entire line of argumentation the entire time that I was arguing. Like, no, this dude's a piece of shit. He sold his family's name to like corrupt foreign entities. He traded money for influence. And the only thing that you guys are arguing is that he actually, he defrauded foreign people because he never delivered the influence that he proffered. That was your argument. So no, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. Just, we can drop it. We can drop it. Don't worry. We can just drop it.
The election being a year away, I think the Ken Starr 5-year obsessive investigation into Bill Clinton to try to find some reason to get him impeached or thrown out of office. I think that the Supreme Court ruling in Florida that forced Gore to resign that election before truly they had the recount they deserved. I think all of these things and the lack of consequences that conservatives have ever paid for anything. If I was a random person and I ventured into American media and I thought about the U.S. budget, I would think, man, Democrats are spenders and Republicans come in and they really reign, or they try to get the reins, I guess, at least on the spending. That's one thing I can say about conservatives. And then if I were to tell them, the last budget surplus we had was under a Democratic president, that most of the spending actually happens under Republican presidents. Like nothing is real to any of the conservatives. They don't have, how do they even have the reputation of being fiscally conservative? Like Donald Trump right now, we just had our big, beautiful budget. He's trying to pressure the Fed to lower the interest rates. Like nothing is real. And when there's no shared reality, I don't know what, would you truly expect if a Democrat gets elected next time to try to go back to normalcy when you've got subhuman, degenerate, hellspawn demons like Jim Jordan and Comer and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Mike Johnson and all?
Dude, I love this comment though. SB says the gun charge was bullshit, though. So you have liberals, right? Like, sorry that we're distracting from the content. My apologies. Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage in chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. But SB, I don't know your politics, so I'm not trying to project. But you have right wingers who say the gun charge was bullshit because you should be able to get a gun no matter what. Then you have liberals saying that the gun charge was bullshit because he lied on a 4473, and that's a rarely prosecuted crime. But what's so funny about that to me is that Hunter Biden, the reason why that law existed was because he was in the throes of crack addiction. Okay? That's the reason why he got charged and convicted of the 4473 violation, which is a paperwork that you fill out. So effectively what you're arguing is that people who are currently addicted to crack should be able to go into gun stores and buy guns. And if they lie on the paperwork, it's not a big deal. I'm not saying you're a liberal. I have no idea what your politics are. But there's plenty of liberals who make that argument. That's fucking crazy. You got just say it. Just say it. You have like similar to how you're accusing other people of having no principles. You also have no principles. Whenever your team does it, it doesn't matter. Okay. Like just admit it. You're tribalist fools. You don't have rules that you hold in your brain, and when one side that you dislike violates it, you press them on the rules, and then one side that you do like violates it, you also press them on the rules. You just have this in your brain that this is my team, so when they break the rules, it's okay. And this is the enemy team, so when they break the rules, it's bad. Just admit that you're like that, right? And then we can move on. Now, because I have 3,000 fucking IQ, can track the fact that I care about the rules more than I care about the tribal identity of the people violating them. Therefore, when the tribe that I like does the wrong thing, I yell at them. And when the tribe that I don't like violates the rules, I yell at them too. It's called like having principles. Like it's called believing in the rule of law. Like I can't believe it. Like why are liberals arguing to me that people within the throes of crack addiction should be able to buy firearms? What the fuck are you talking about? What's your problem? What is your problem?
These actual satanic figures still crawling around the House and in Congress. I just don't know how you would ever expect that to happen.
Well, I mean, if we're going to be in the everyone's a satanic figure land, it certainly won't. I think
they are satanic.
Wait, we hate Hunter. You people are that insane. I don't even hate Hunter on a personal level. Just have standards, you fucking tribalist freaks. What's your problem?
Figures. They are satanic figures. This is the issue that I run into. I think you don't think it's that bad.
No, I think that politicians, by and large,
Fung Dark, there's a big difference between a corrupt politician simply because he was charged in a preemptive pardon to protect purely political attacks from the absolute maniac coming into office. Fung Dark, you're fucking coping. You're fucking coping. The charges came from Biden's DOJ. It was Biden's DOJ that charged Hunter. The prosecutions after the fact may have been politicized, but the charges themselves came from the Biden administration. What the fuck are you talking about, man? You guys just admit it. You're tribal. You're tribal like everybody else. You're all tribal freaks. Just admit it. No one said, Connor, you gaslighting your audience without evidence. No, I'm not. You're pissing on my leg and telling me it's, yeah, Hunter Biden is neurodivergent and a minor. Oh, you guys are crazy. Oh, you guys are crazy. Anyways. Let's try to get past that. Everybody just shut the fuck up about Hunter Biden. You're going to trigger me into getting one guide. And if you keep talking about Hunter and I keep talking about Hunter, that's on you, not on me. Okay. We're here to watch Rylan Mulally, the centrist lawyer, argue with Steven, the king of liberal debate bros, and you guys are triggering me over your tribal defense of corruption when it's Democrats, but not corruption when it's corruption when it's Republicans. It's both corruption. Just let it be corruption. Jesus Christ.
Are immoral and like to win. And the right has coalesced around what is winning. The question I was posing is that working because it's the new normal? And if it is the new normal, by the way, then you're probably right about all the stuff you've been saying. Like, if that's the new normal going forward, then there's no reason that I could give why Democrats should.
No. Gen X says Hunter cheated on taxes like all rich people do. Doesn't make it okay, but by comparison, it isn't even the same ballpark as the open, ongoing corruption in the White House. Okay, I agree. Okay, paint time. You guys did it. You guys did it. This is not my fault. This is your fault. Okay, so let's do Hunter Biden. Let's do a scale of 1 to 10. Let's do a line. Okay. And then that's my what? That's my y-axis. Here's my x-axis, okay? And then let's put a 1. Damn, that's a fucked up 1. Then let's put a 10. Okay? It's going to get dicked up very quickly, okay? Then let's put a 5 here just for things, okay? So here is Hunter Biden cheating on taxes, okay? Actually, you know what? I'm going to put it at like a 3, okay? Here's Hunter Biden cheating on taxes, okay? Because he wasn't just cheating on taxes, right? When you say cheating on taxes, what I'm assuming is people declare stuff on taxes that isn't fair, right? They claim business expenses that shouldn't be business expenses. What he did is he took millions of dollars from corrupt foreign companies in consultation fees. He moved it back into his family tax-free, and then he claimed business expenses that were fraudulent, that involved staying in hotels and doing shitloads of illicit drugs and banging hookers. So I'm actually going to take this from, let's say tax evasion is a 3. I'm actually going to bump that up to a 4, okay? Because of how egregious it was, okay? Then in my opinion, Hillary Clinton is worse than Hunter Biden. This is Hunter Biden, okay? Hillary Clinton is worse than Hunter Biden, in my opinion. The reason why is because she was the Secretary of State, and she was the, what else was she? Secretary of State and presidential aspirant, right? She wanted to be the president, okay? And what she did is she did the Clinton Foundation, where foreign nations poured in billions of dollars for charitable organizations that her and her husband and Chelsea got to capitalize on and use for their good name and their clout and influence while she was Secretary of State. Okay, so I think that that is just corruption by another name. So I'll put Hillary Clinton at a 7. You could actually argue the inverse if you wanted and say like, oh, Hillary Clinton's actions and Bill Clinton's actions, like them taking $1 million book deals from foreign corrupt governments and them being ubu cute boys with foreign corrupt governments and all that kind of stuff, while Hillary Clinton is still in positions of power and expected to be in future positions of power. You could actually say, since it's all legal, that you could invert these if you wanted to, if you want to mentally. I'm just telling you the way that I view it. Okay. Now, Jared Kushner running a fucking sovereign wealth fund that's $2 billion breaks the scale. Okay? Here's a 10. Jared Kushner running a $2 billion sovereign wealth fund is a fucking 15. Okay? And then Trump rug pulling his own audience and then using the Trump coin to receive billions of dollars from foreign entities is a fucking 20. So you can say, oh, Hunter Biden is just an ooh-woo cute boy. He only did a 3 out of 10 on the corruption scale. And you can say Hillary Clinton is ooh-woo and kawaii. She only did a 7 out of 10 because technically she didn't violate any laws. She just collected billions of dollars from foreign governments while serving as Secretary of State and then used that to launder her and her pedophile husband's reputation. You could say that if you wanted to. And you can also say that Jared Kushner and Donald Trump are substantively worse. But just because they're substantively worse doesn't mean that these two people aren't corrupt. Okay? Fuck you. This is how I see it. And if you don't see it that way, I think you're coping. All right? I'll just leave that up there in case there's any questions. Rises for 78 HK says, not saying he's faultless, but the felony cases has nothing to do with the corruption you were talking about. Yes, it does. It's the tax evasion related to the corrupt finances that he took in. The question is, how many more investigations are required? None. It's done. He's been pardoned. True Zealot says, Connor, why are we even talking about this? Didn't you know that Sydney Sweeney is leading the revival of the Reich in America? MAGA is just using Hunter to distract from the American Eagle ad campaign. All right, back to the content before I get too distracted.
Should attempt to do like sane, old school, respect the institutions, respect the office type behavior. But if that stuff starts fading when Trump is no longer there to galvanize the base, then there would be a way forward. And that, so I'm maybe overly optimistic, but I'm fingers crossing that that's what it is, because if we go down the road you're suggesting, I think things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. And I'm hoping that there's some way that we can avoid that.
We're already way down that road. That's the issue. Like, if I think of just...
LB says he paid his taxes off and was found guilty. He was prosecuted. Connor, get over it. No, he didn't pay his taxes off. A fucking super donor from the Democratic Party paid $1.1 million to the federal government to cover his tax bill. Then he sold $1 million worth of paintings, and he wasn't prosecuted because he was pardoned. Once again, you're just like factually wrong, LB. You just like saying things. Yeah.
What, just the Eric Adams scheme. Is there a single thing that Biden in his 4 years did?
Okay. You guys are fucking... I have to use an ableist slur. I'm sorry, Ken. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry to Jesus. You guys are fucking retarded. Hunter had already repaid the back taxes and penalties. If he wasn't Biden, he would have never been charged. Bullshit. IRS agents said opposite. Not only did the IRS agent say opposite, what was it? Democratic donor who paid Hunter Biden's taxes. He didn't pay his back taxes. Kevin Morris. I don't want AI. Why would I want AI? Kevin Morris, a Hollywood lawyer and Democratic donor, loaned Hunter Biden at least $5 million to pay off his tax debt and other personal expenses. And I'm pretty sure $1.1 million of it was just a gift. He was just given $1 million. Yeah. Kevin Morris just paid $2 million of unpaid tax liability. So you guys are just coping. Hunter Biden wasn't working. And then the federal government says, hey, you cheated on your fucking taxes. Pay these liabilities. He didn't have any more money because he was a fucking drug addict and a cheat and a corrupt liar. And then Kevin Morris paid $5 million through a loan, but paid $2 million as a gift. That's also, to me, indications of corruption. What the fuck is wrong with you guys? If I start smoking crack and fucking cheating on my wife and getting my sister-in-law hooked on methamphetamine, are you going to have this energy? Are you just going to be like, oh, Connor's like an ooh-woo cute boy? Get the fuck out of here. Thank you, baby. You guys are full of shit. You're full of shit. Just admit it. You're tribally compromised. That's going to be my response from now on. Just so we can get through the content, I'm no longer responding to the details of it because I'm right and you're wrong. I'm just going to call you tribally compromised, and I'm going to move through the comments. I can't anymore. We're not. The content isn't even about Hunter Biden. You guys just need to sweep. Okay.
Just on that, even cumulative to that one, that the Eric Adams thing.
Okay, Melody, you are tribally compromised.
I mean, you can pick so many. Like, I mean, Trump's crypto thing.
No.
I think,
I'm saying. Hold on. I know you're on the Trump side. I'm asking in terms of Trump and the Eric Adams scheme. Is there one thing that Biden did? Yeah,
I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying
Dominic Gayata, he was already charged under the Biden DOJ. You're tribally compromised.
Like, you could pick the Trump crypto thing, and you say like, well, what?
LB, then drop it and stop gaslighting. No, you're tribally compromised, and you were wrong about half a dozen other things that you said. If you don't want me to comment on it, shut up about it.
What's the second most corrupt thing after that? And
no. Yeah, but I'm just saying that, like, because we keep saying that like both sides, like you said, politicians are immoral and like to win, and I'm saying that no, I'm saying that MAGA and the conservatives.
KO Dave says there's a false equivalency here. Hunter Biden was never part of the federal government. You're tribally compromised. If my brother, actually not even my brother, let's say if my son, let's say I'm president of the United States and my son starts going overseas in order to promise people that he has the inside track in order to get people deals that allows them to do business in the United States of America. That's corruption by another name. You're tribally compromised. Shut up.
Are very special outside in their own world right now. None of this was normal or normalized prior to.
I think that what I was saying there is that I think there's a difference between someone like Trump, or maybe like
smoking crack isn't a crime. Possession and selling crack cocaine are. LB, you're funny.
I don't know who you want to pick as your chief satanic figure. Marjorie Taylor Greene, maybe. I don't know. Like a true believer. And then there's somebody like a Mitch McConnell who I don't think he likes Trump. I don't think he's particularly enamored with Trump. I think he likes winning. I think that he's willing to ride the winning horse, even if it's kind of gross. And I think that the opportunistic politicians will change course if the wind changes. The true believers won't. But I mean, I guess my assessment is different than yours. I don't think the true believers are 95% of the base. I think that I think that they are part of his base and a big part of his base. But I don't know if
sure. But then if you agree on the scale, when I ask who's worse for rule of law, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, what are you possibly considering in your mind to make these two even remotely equivalent?
I didn't say they were equivalent.
But it sounded like there was like a heavy consideration there. Like what? Like, would you agree that Kamala Harris would have been immensely and supremely better? I was trying
to decide if I wanted to pivot into the giant debates that Pisco had and I had on some of these topics, and I opted not to. There are certain things that the Democrats were doing that I thought were really bad and caused them to lose. And in that moment, they deserved to lose. I certainly think the Trump administration has done some terrible things, and hopefully they will lose as a result. Like
when you think of like things that the Democrats did, what is the single most worst horrible thing you can think of over the past 10 years with regards to like rule of law stuff that you think the Democrats did?
Oh no, that's why I didn't pivot to it, because it's not going to be
probably killing an American citizen without due process. Now I agree with Obama with killing that American citizen. I think there should have been a due process in order to do it.
The same thing. It's like, I think that the Democrats were on the verge of attempting to make racial preferences legal in a lot of places, which I thought was pretty gross. I thought that the cover of Biden's health and whatever was happening.
Biden's health not relevant to rule of law, and Trump's health is currently being covered up by the entire Republican establishment as well, right? Well, sure. So I understand. I'm just trying to understand.
Melody, I love you. You've been here for a while. But please show me how sane Hunter... This is so fucking funny. Connor's sweeping for Republicans is pretty crazy. Nowhere was anything swept. I will refer you to my fucking drawing. Hunter Biden, 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10 on the corruption scale in my personal fucking thing. Hillary Rodham Clinton with the fucking working in the State Department while running a charitable organization that collected billions of dollars that allowed them to sanitize their reputation, while Bill Clinton was fucking engaging in ephebophilia and pedophilia with Jeffrey Epstein. That's a 7 out of 10 in my book. Jared Kushner and Trump broke the fucking scale. So please tell me where consistently having this is the corruption scale, in case you forgot it. So how is saying that corruption is bad, and when you engage in it, I'm gonna criticize you, and I criticize Hunter Biden and Hillary Rodham Clinton, and I think what they did was bad, but I acknowledge that Republicans broke the fucking scale. How is that sweeping? Please explain it to me. That's actually so stupid. Dude, just admit it. You're tribalist. You're tribalist. Half of my chat are fucking tribal liberals. They cannot admit when a liberal does something bad. They have to minimize it. They have to excuse it. They have to pretend that it's secretly good. They have to make jokes about it. They have to meme away. They can't just admit, like, yeah, it's kind of fucked up. How about that? How about you try that on for size? Why don't Mellow D? I don't expect LB or anybody else to do this. But Mellow D, I've known you to make nuanced comments in the past. Why don't you just try this on for size within your mind? Why don't you just go, yeah, smoking crack and evading your taxes and buying guns when you're not supposed to, getting your wife addicted to methamphetamine, or your dead brother's wife addicted to methamphetamine, and funneling money into your family without paying your taxes is bad, while selling your influence to corrupt foreign entities. Why don't you just try saying that it's bad out loud in your own mind? And then you can try this on for size immediately afterwards. Being the secretary of, I forget what Jared Kushner was. Was he Secretary of State, Department of State? I forget. But he was working in a diplomatic position, right? High up diplomatic position. Being a high up diplomatic position and then taking $2 billion from somebody that you worked with from a sovereign wealth fund so you can become a billionaire yourself is worse. Just try on those two sentences and see if they fit, because I think you'll find them more comfortable than whatever fucking what do you call it, cognitive dissonance cope that you're doing right now. I think you'll find the truth more comfortable.
Sure. I'm just trying to understand when we say Kamala could have been worse for rule of law, overall, just broadly speaking, than Trump.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. What I said was, you asked the question, and I paused because I was trying to figure out whether I wanted to pivot into these other problems I had with her, and I chose not to. I agree with you that Trump's worse on rule of law. Like, okay. I don't disagree.
Boom.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay. That's all I was. Okay. So I was curious about.
I know you're prepping for your debate, so we got you. Like, it's you got to like get in there, but.
I'm not prepping for a debate. The issue that I have is that the constant downplaying of like everything that Donald Trump does, it actually drives me insane. I feel like there's at least 5 or 10 different things that like on their own are worse cumulatively than all the horrible legal stuff that you complain about Democrats forever. Yeah, the executive orders targeting law firms, I think, is insane. The targeting of individuals to have like their security clearances revoked because they don't politically like them is unbelievable. The entire Bovee and Bondi scheme to manipulate Eric Adams as mayor by dangling charges over him, I thought was absolutely unreal. The invocation of the Alien Enemies Act, I thought was an egregious violation of rule of law. The fact that we've got this unitary executive theory running where Pam Bondi serves as Trump's right-hand prosecutor that he personally directs, I think is insane. The fact that we put a special prosecutor in place to investigate Biden because he found a folder of potentially classified information in his garage, and now we have this huge conflict of interest related to Pam Bondi, Epstein, and the FBI redacting Trump's names from him. We don't have a special prosecutor for that. I think it's crazy. Like, there's like so many different things we could go on. Sorry, I'm like, yeah, but then when I hear people talk about it, like, well, Kamala could have been bad. I think Trump's kind of bad. I don't know. What would it be? And it's like, well, maybe Kamala could have extended some DEI stuff. It's like, well, affirmative action ended on.
Mr. Bunis says, when was it like billions and billions? Now. If I remember correctly, Jared Kushner got $2 billion from the Saudi Arabian sovereign wealth fund that he's set to manage. And so he's going to make tens of millions of dollars over the next few decades managing that money. And then I'm pretty sure that Trump is currently accused of foreign governments spending billions on Trump coin in order to get political consideration. That broke the scale of corruption. If a Democrat did that and you guys were sweeping for it, I think I would actually just have a stroke on stream. What if Hunter was into Warhammer? What would he be? He would be like an imperial aristocrat. R. Hickner says he only made like 5 to 6 million. Most of that money went to Devin Archer. The accusations of influence peddling came from a guy who lied to the dude. I fucking hate you guys. I'm just gonna be real. I fucking hate you. I know that we're friends and we all love each other and we're brilliant and well endowed, but I hate you guys today. Like if I've made less than probably. I think my peak was probably 90 grand. Maybe I broke 100 once. I might have broken 100 once when I was still like a salesperson, and I was doing YouTube side hustle. But I've been under 100 grand my whole life, and I would say like 70% of that, 80% of that was probably under 60 grand. And so you guys being like, well, if you money launder like 6 million, is that really that big of a deal? Yeah, it is to me. The plebeian working class twat who has been working my dick off my whole life to make 30 grand a year or to make 70 grand a year, like 30 grand a year when I was poor, 70 grand a year when I was doing okay, and 100 grand a year maybe once or twice. Yeah, I worked hard for my fucking cash. So you being a corrupt fucking piece of shit selling out our fucking government to the tunes of millions of dollars, and you fucking funneling that back into your family tax-free, getting addicted to hard drugs and fucking imploding your family. Yeah, I'm going to call you a piece of shit. And I'm going to hope that you get criminally prosecuted. And if you do something worse, like the Trump admin, then yeah, I hope you get fucking criminally prosecuted. I think it's corruption by another name. And the fact that you guys keep sweeping for it, I think you're fucking coping. I think you're tribalist morons. I think you're coping. Now do Trump coin. Yeah, Trump coin broke the scale. Did you see my drawing? So this was my normalized corruption scale. Hillary was at a 7. Hunter Biden was at a 3 or a 4. And Jared Kushner is at a 15. And Donald Trump is at a 20. Did you not look at my drawing? I made it for you. I made it for you, Sacred Snow. I drew this for you.
Under Biden, and they didn't do anything to bring it back. Like, I don't even know how it's even remotely close. And then when we have the conversation of, when we have the conversation of like, what do we do going forward? Well, the Democrats just have to move past it. And it's like, holy, like, what are we talking about? Like, what?
You said like a billion things there.
Yeah,
I'm not going to try to respond to all of them
fine.
because
you can also cut me off. I'm rambling too much. But go for it.
Yeah.
Christian Valera says this graph was unnecessary. Apparently not. My chat is still coping about it.
A few things. One, just because it's like a thing that I've talked about publicly, so I just feel I have to say. Affirmative action.
Fung Dark says if he doesn't catch my clarification, I'm going to be forced to make my first ever donation. Sorry, unless I read it, you're going to have to make your donation.
Ended under Biden, with Biden arguing before the Supreme Court that it should continue. It ended over his objection. And when Trump was in office, he was arguing it should end. So I don't think that's a really fair point. But I mean, I'm only picking one because you said it. There's a billion things you said, but I'm not going to.
He paid his back taxes, though. I already addressed you. Keep up.
Sure. But that's following rule of law. It ended. Obviously, there's still litigants going to fight it for it, but it ended and they lost and they moved on. Right?
Yeah. But in fairness, when you like one of the questions that I think is very interesting to ask is, I agree with you about so much about the stuff that Trump does that's bad. So much.
Just say it. Just say it, bro. You just said it, but with different words. If the difference in badness is that wide, it's not even worth bringing up Hunter or Hillary. It's like complaining about killing 2 killings, but also bringing up stealing from a 7-Eleven. Yeah, Melody, you're tribalist. You're tribalist and you're coping. Guess what? Murder is wrong. So is theft. I still want shoplifters to be prosecuted because I'm a Republican. Back when the word Republican meant something, Republican means rule of law. Okay? It means representative democracy and rule of law. Okay? So if a shoplifter steals a candy bar, I want them to be probably written a ticket, let's be real, but I still want them to be punished. Okay? If somebody steals, if somebody does strong-armed robbery, I want them to be incarcerated because of the violence of the crime. If somebody does a Bernie Madoff style pyramid scheme where they defraud thousands of people out of billions of dollars, then I want them to be incarcerated for decades. And if my government is corrupt, then I want those people to be prosecuted. Melody says, if you said the degree. So this is like, yeah, this is actually what you said, which is so crazy. It's like, Hillary Clinton committed a murder. Did you know that there's a genocide in Gaza going on right now? That's what you just did in my chat. That's what you just did in my chat. Hillary Clinton committing a murder. Did you know that there's a genocide? Dude, don't stop. Just stop. Your logic sucks. Your consistency sucks. You're evaporating any principles you would have had because it's the other team. Stop doing that shit. It's fucking stupid. Yeah, conservative liberalism. I paid Hunter Biden's taxes and all I got was this shitty painting. God, that's actually a good one.
The things that you say, I'm just like, yeah, I think that is very bad, and that's the sort of like even our first conversation. I said like my concerns about the rule of law with Trump are why I didn't vote for him. Like that was the reason that not to vote for him. So it's a bummer that it's played out this way, but it's not terribly surprising. I don't think. The question is, why are Democrats the only thing left popular?
Okay, KO Dave says, I don't care if someone loaned Hunter to help him pay his taxes were paid. Okay, cool. Then if Jared Kushner develops a crippling drug addiction off of the sovereign wealth fund and he owes back taxes that he funneled a bunch of the profits back to his family and he didn't pay taxes on them and he gets charged with a tax felony, I expect you to keep the same energy where if, let's say Melania, because Melania isn't a member of the federal government. Let's say that Melania coin pays off Jared Kushner's tax debt related to him selling his influence to the Saudis. I expect you to have the exact same position where you're like, well, I don't care because Melania isn't a part of the federal government. I don't care. I don't care. Melania's not a part of the federal government. Why would I care if she paid his back taxes?
Than Republicans. Like what? Like with all that you've just said, why is it the Democrats are so unpopular? And it seems like the answer is because they don't fight hard enough. But I wonder if the answer is that there's this obsession with symmetry. There's an idea that like the sides are going to be held to the same standard, and I think that might be a little utopian. I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah, but I think one of the reasons why, I mean, there's a lot of things. One, I think, is the just massive misinformation apparatus that the Republicans control from top to bottom. I mean, today Trump literally fired his labor.
Okay, I think we're banning Hunter discussion. So right now, last comment is Fung Dark's Dono. When I reach Fung Dark's Dono, we're done with Hunter. Okay. And so I don't want to see any more comments about Hunter. We're done with Hunter. We actually need to pay attention to the content. So no more comments. If I see comments after Fung Dark's donation, then I'll give you a warning. And then if you comment again, I'm going to give you a suspension because we do need to move into the content. This is my job. So I get that getting one guide about a totally side different tangent while I'm not even listening to the main content is funny. But we actually need to be respectful of the VOD viewers. Okay. Hunter conversation is done. Talk about something else. I might still be talking about Hunter because I still have to catch up with your other fucking chats. But you guys who are listening to this, you're done talking about Hunter. You will get a warning and then you'll get a suspension.
Department person, secretary, because he not the top secretary or whatever, but because he didn't like the jobs numbers that they reported. So the fact that Republicans have like this absolute top-down media control is I think a huge thing. And the second thing is you say like, well, they don't feel like they'll fight for them. Like that's true, but like our standard for fighting is like, do I have a president who believes so strongly in his ability to lead the country that he's willing to like lead a insurrection to stay in office and then lie about the results of the election indefinitely. Donald Trump today, the leader of the United States of America, supposedly the leading shining beacon democracy, currently has a president who believed that the last election was rigged. And that's never going to change. Like there are going to be, I'm trying to say mean words. There are conservatives going forward who are going to teach for the rest of their lives, their children and their grandchildren and their great-great-grandchildren, if they live that long, they're going to be teaching them that the 2020 election was probably stole. That's inconceivable to me. That's like, so of course they feel like they can fight strongly. They literally are willing to fight as dirty as possible to do whatever they want.
Well, but there's also, and I don't claim to have an answer to this, but the base on the right at present just seems to be cohesive in a different way. Like, you know, when I think about, like, okay, in terms of their politics, who's an equivalent to Hassan on the right? Like, who's a right-leaning Hassan in terms of like how far they are from the center?
In terms of how far they are from the center, Matt Walsh,
Nick Fuentes.
I guess. I don't know. Charlie
like,
Kirk, maybe. I don't know. It depends on what you
Matt
mean.
Walsh, Charlie Kirk, right? Like, I mean, you get like, you know, you get the Christian nationalists, you get like the hardcore populists, but they all voted Republican. They all voted Republican, right? On the left is not cohesive in that way. So I think when we start playing these games of like zero sum, as presently constituted, that favors the right because their base is cohesive in a way that the left isn't, and the left fragments on these, you know, various wedge issues, Israel, Palestine, whatever it's going to, it'll be something else next time, right? Like I don't think that battlefield favors the left. If I'm giving my honest assessment, I think the left wins when they are inspirational, when they are practical, when they sound like, you know, prime Obama, prime Bill Clinton. I think that's the blueprint that has been successful because their base is such a big tent and it has so many different ideas that the only way when you're down in the mud, it doesn't inspire and it doesn't bring the people in. I think the left just operates differently than the right. And I think that asymmetry is going to be a battlefield that really favors the right. I think in this kind of like dirty, mean, edgy content, the right has a huge structural advantage. I think it just is a better area for them to play.
I don't think I actually even agree with that right now. I think that the right actually has a bigger tent than the left because the right, because of the complete homogeneity of media messaging control that they have from top to bottom. Like we can say the left has a big tent, but the right literally got the, and I would have bet so much money of this against this ever happening. The right got the Silicon Valley dipshits to actually play into, and all the crypto bros and everything who are watching Donald Trump support crypto, who has no idea, you know, what a blockchain even is. I feel like the right incorporated a ton of new people. You saw a lot of the, you know, Hispanic vote in Miami and Florida start to sway more conservative than they thought they had. You saw young people, even young men, kind of sway a lot more conservative than they thought they could. But I think.
Dude, I mean, you just said the magic word, right? Like, I mean, that in terms of like the massive self-owns on the left, the way that they've lost the young male vote is like an unbelievable self-own. Like that was.
It's not a self-own though. It's an own insofar as the Republicans control the media apparatus and can demonstrate and do whatever message that they want. That's insane to me. It's crazy that
the messaging in, and I'm not saying this is like the politicians necessarily, but if you look at like the messaging within like the left media sphere for the past 10 years, you know, there was an article that came out recently that said something like, you know, girls are now achieving more than boys in every area in academia except one. And here's why that's a problem. That was essentially the title. And it's like, whoa, holy shit. You just said that other than math, girls are outperforming boys in every other subject. And it's a problem that they're not outperforming them in math. That's the article. And in a world where that's like, you know, the mainstream leaning opinion in left-leaning circles getting published in publications, yeah, you're going to have a male vote problem. Like, I mean, this isn't rocket science. If you think David Hodge is going to solve your male vote problem, you've lost your mind. And then they kicked him out for a gender quota, which is hilarious because it wasn't even, it was a gender quota that required a man. So it wasn't even like a good reason to kick him out, but they thought a gender quota would be like a good way to kick someone out, that would be a palatable way to kick people out. There's an undercurrent on the left that really does believe that we should still be in this world of de facto or in fact quotas based on race and gender to ameliorate historic wrongs. And it pisses people off, and it lost them a ton of male support. And it's not a mystery. They did this to themselves. So yeah, that's a cell phone. But also fixable. Like, that's totally fixable. That is something they.
Excuse me. Sorry for sneezing in your ear. God bless me. So it's just the point here that Democrats optically fucking suck and they hurt themselves. I was too busy getting one guide in chat. We need more likers in chat. True. Like the stream, share it with your friends, talk to them about how Connor keeps getting one guide about Hunter Biden. And if you want to, just hear a guy spurg out about Hunter Biden for 30 minutes at a time, all you have to do is mention him in his chat and he'll freak the fuck out. Super chats if you got him, memberships if you got him.
Could just change. I don't think they are, but they could.
Okay. Sorry, I was thinking of different ways to kill myself. Okay.
Based.
This is an issue that I run into every single time. I've had this on Piers Morgan. I've had this every single center, every single conservative I've talked to. Every single time I run into this issue, okay, I have this thing where it's like, I think that Republicans are disgusting. It's like, why? I think that the statements that Comer has made in front of Congress, I think that the position that Jim Jordan occupies on all these panels in the House of the relentless investigation, I think all the things that Donald Trump, Bondi and Bovee, Dumb and Dumber, the Kash Patel and Bongino, this back and forth, the Epstein files, I think that the insanity that Huckabee's wild statements attached to Trump related to Israel, like all of these people that are counter RFK Jr. And the insanity that's been going on with the Health and Human Services Department, all of these insane things going on. And it's like, okay, fair point. But did you see this article that was a huge L about men and women in school? And it's like, how am I possibly I'm at that point?
Randy Chang says, is it weird to say I don't care about Hunter's sex life, Joe's sex life, or Trump's sex life? Yeah, you should care. You should care if your fucking leaders are total fucking degenerates. And by the way, Randy Chang, let's break this down. Hunter's sex life is that he was depressed about various things because his little sister and mom died when he was a kid, and he tried to ignore his own trauma. And then when he was an adult, his older brother got cancer and died, and he was one of the best men he knew. And so he became a crack cocaine and methamphetamine addict. And as a result, he started banging prostitutes. That's a Hunter's sex life as far as I know. And then he got his brother's widow hooked on methamphetamine and also banged her, right? That's pretty fucked up. Joe's sex life, I haven't heard anything weird, except for sometimes he likes to sniff kids. But I don't think that's sexual. I think it's like grandpa stuff. I don't know. Trump's sex life is he banged a bunch of fucking 14-year-old girls who were sex trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, you should care about that. You should care if your fucking president's a pedophile. I care. I don't know why you don't care. I care. We shouldn't have a pedophile for president of the United States. Fung Dark says, you fart knocker. My only assertion was that the pardon was to protect from future attacks from Trump, not to protect from the prior charges. Well, then why didn't he just do a limited pardon then where he says these can go through, but I'm pardoning everything else, right? He didn't want to see his son go to prison, which, by the way, I sympathize and empathize with as a father. As a father, I would do the same thing. I would expect it to be said that my actions were bad, though, that they frayed the social contract between those who run a society and govern a society and those who live in that society. Right? So anyways, let me say something that pisses me off even before we get into this next part of the Destiny thing, where he's saying like, well, I can point to specific things that the Republicans have done. And whenever we talk about, Republican criticisms of the left, it's vibes. Do you know why it's vibes? I'll tell you why it's vibes. It's because we had Bill Clinton, who was generally speaking a popular president, He's a fucking pedophile who had sex with underage prostitutes on Epstein Island as well. But generally speaking, besides that, he was like a fairly popular guy who accomplished things. Then we had Bush, who was the neoconservative who got us wrapped up in Iraq. We had Obama, who actually I'm going to say is probably one of the best presidents of my lifetime. His biggest disaster was the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, which totally fucked the middle class and upper middle class and rich in reference to healthcare, but it got a shitload of more people onto healthcare. So you have to, if you're a libertarian, that's probably a disaster. If you're a communitarian or a collectivist, you're probably like, yeah, that's okay. So the ACA was a fucking disaster. But besides that, he was like, in my opinion, a pretty normal dude. And he ran kind of as like a dove, but he killed the shit out of jihadists when he needed to. I am repulsed by what he did with the Yazidis, but that's okay. Then moving into Trump was a fucking disaster in my opinion, like total fucking disaster. But the truth is, the vibes have been off for a fucking decade. Okay. And the reason why the vibes have been off is because lefties run media. And they've made it so a shitload of TV shows, shitload of movies, shitload of programming, shitload of radio shows. They've said everything except for white people are evil. And some people have just come out and said that white men and white people in general are evil. Like there's this thing. It's the end of this movie. And it's actually like a really cute movie. It's very progressive. Female super bad movie. Booksmart. So Booksmart graduation scene. So let's take a look. It might be this. Okay. I can't quite get it. So yeah. So there's no audio. I know there's no audio. I just don't want to get copyright struck. So that guy did a speech or whatever. And he's like, I'm a woman. And the time of the straight white man has come. I don't know if he's like, oh, he's reading the speech for the girl boss. She gets the kiss. All right, fuck it. I think she just redoes the speech. So let's just go ahead and play this segment.
I am a woman. I am a powerful woman. And I'm ready to take the fists of my femininity to the...
Straight white man, your time is...
Okay.
Right. So anyways, the whole point of that is that I'm pretty sure she redoes the fucking speech. That's fucking cringe to me. Okay? Not only is it cringe to me, it's like this undercurrent of fucking resentment that has been a part of pop culture the entire time. Now, I live in the real world. Sorry if that took a long time for me to establish it. But little moments like that, of this like bred resentment against straight white men, against Western civilization, against patriarchy, against capitalism. I'm just constantly, when it comes to culture and the internet, I'm just swimming in this bullshit all day. Now, the truth is that like I live out in the real world some of the time, or at least I used to. And so I used to hang out with working class people, middle class people, people from the hood, rich people, all that kind of bullshit. And so I kind of knew that while this was swimming in the culture, it didn't seem to have come down into the normal society yet, right? And so I have like a sober separation, I think, between cringe progressive pop culture bullshit in the real world. And so I don't treat every single black person like they're this like anti-white black militant. I don't treat gay people like they're trying to overthrow the cis hetero patriarchy, because the gay people that I meet are actually like pretty nice, pretty chill. They just want to be treated like normal. Then I also, there's when it comes to like black people or whatever, you know, I just went to, my mom was a teacher at an almost all black school. And so we just went to a graduation, and they're all working class and middle class, and they're raising their families, and they don't talk about killing whitey all the time. They're just normal fucking people, right? And so the point that I'm trying to make is the resentment against the left is cultural, not political. Sorry it took me fucking 10 minutes to get there, but I'm trying to get Hunter Biden's cock off of my brain.
If I can point to, like, if we want to say that political parties taking positions on things should cause them to lose or gain votes, like, how the fuck is it that the party that supported Andrew Tate has any women that vote for them at all, right? Like, the
True
idea that like the left can lose votes on every single article and every single tweet and every single random social media post, I don't believe that. I think that what we're talking about, I think the only reason you even know that article exists is because some conservative tweeted it, and because Charlie Kirk retweeted it, and because Steve Bannon and Nick Fuentes and then Donald Trump and then Candace Owens and every other person like cycles his stuff. And then you're in this world, it's like, okay, well, Donald Trump might have said this bad thing, but holy shit, I saw this article at The Atlantic, and they said over there that like boys and girls might be gender identity confused, and now I'm not really sure who I should vote for. And then it's like, you look at like the average Democrat, like,
yes, because culture, progressive culture is oftentimes cringe and off-putting.
Like, you look at the average like center left Democrat, like most center left Democrats don't give a fuck about any of these issues. You're going to like the most extreme, like people posting articles in the media and stuff, and like it's not even a majority position of anybody in the party. And somehow the Democrats, it's fair that the Democrats have to answer for that. Well, the Republicans seem to elude any responsibility for the Republican side. I don't know. That's just mind-blowing to me.
I mean, I think in your quest for symmetry, you're like missing the most fundamental point here, which is that, you know, like I said to you now a few times in a few different places that one of my concerns was that the left seemed to be in favor of discriminating against my children in various ways.
True.
Now, there's a lot of stuff you brought up I agree with. There's a lot of stuff that I really don't like about Trump. And in fact, you know, I don't know if you recall this, but I've never even voted for a Republican. I voted left my entire life, right? I just sat out the last election. So like, I am a gettable vote. The problem is when I say like this is a self-own, what I'm trying to do is be helpful, right? I'm honestly saying like, I think the left needs to do some soul searching on this issue. Like they need to do some soul searching about what the to do about the crazy tanky wing.
Wait,
like
so what?
Tankies, trans kids, communist and socialist infiltration of the left, woke media, progressive media, it all creates these neutral fucking people. And by the way, October 7, 2023, it's another huge thing where you lost a bunch of Jews. You either lost them to the right, or you lost them to no longer financing Democrats and no longer supporting the Democratic Party explicitly.
Is the soul searching that like no more crazy people can write articles? Or I don't understand the soul searching. Like Nick Fuentes and Ken.
Or if somebody writes a cringe progressive article that's actually anti-white racist or anti-male in sentiment, you criticize the fuck out of it because it's cringe.
Candace Owens, I don't think either of these people believe we went to the moon, and they're semi-prominent voices on the right. Like, what is the soul? And when the left has a soul search?
I think the left needs to start being
clear
about what it's for and what it's against. And I think that like,
but the right isn't clear, but what they're for against, is that the asymmetry?
The asymmetry is not going to be, isn't going to matter, because what I'm saying is that the thing that
hello, Grassroots, good to see you, brother.
That was concerning to me about this policy is intensely personal, because I have young children who would be discriminated against in a world of affirmative action.
True.
So I would prefer them not to be in that world because they're my kids.
Do you think, hold on, wait, do you think, were you more worried about, oh God, sorry, go ahead.
You can bring up a billion things, right? But like the pitch that Republicans were making last election was that it was, holy shit, this seems unfair. This seems crazy. Doesn't that seem crazy to you? And it was a pretty good pitch. It worked. But a lot of that stuff is fixable. It's just not a thing the Democrats have to do. It's a policy choice.
Do you think that affirmative action represented a greater threat to your kids than the totality of or the direction of the current like Republican, I guess, like regime?
My kids, particularly?
Sure. Yeah.
Yes. But that's because I'm incredibly privileged in my profession, and there are a lot of the stuff that you would bring up has no impact on me.
So you think in your life you were legitimately worried that
Ray Sunlight says, I only have one question. Would you leave your 16-year-old daughter with Trump for 72 hours unsupervised? No. I would expect him to bribe her into sex. I expect him to be like, oh, you're so pretty. You're a model. Here's $300,000. Let's go have sex. I expect Trump would try to bang my 16-year-old daughter. Absolutely.
your kids' futures were going to be because of affirmative action?
I think that in a world where it is legal and acceptable and a thing that people
SB says, shaking my head as I sign a pardon for my kids so the public knows I'm disappointed. That's so awesome. Thank you. Thank you, SB. That's actually what I'm asking for. Okay, that's what I'm asking for. I understand the pragmatics over pardoning Hunter. I understand the pragmatics over, sweeping for Hillary Clinton. But can you guys just shake your heads? Can you just shake your heads while you're talking about Hillary and Hunter so I know that you guys feel bad about it? That's what I need. I just need the Democrats to be like, Trump is so much worse, but this Hill dog thing, this Hill dog thing, it just gives me a bad taste in my mouth. I don't think anything should be done about it, but it's just not good. And you know what? If you do that, if you do nothing while shaking your heads and sucking your teeth in a little bit, that's enough for me. Okay. That's all I ask. That's all I ask. Just shake your head slowly and suck your teeth a little bit. Oh, yep. All right. Anyways,
people are doing and celebrating to have policies that are discriminatory.
Gen X says, have victims testified about sex with Clinton? No, apparently he's a consummate gentleman who was very nice to all of his underage prostitutes. No one has, I don't think any victims have accused Clinton, but I think that there were staff from Epstein Island and people who traveled to Epstein Island who saw Bill Clinton hanging out in the presence of young women who were not Hillary, right?
On the basis of race, on the basis of gender, and always in the same direction. That worries me for my kids who would then be impacted by those policies.
So you think that you genuinely believe there's like a thing that's like the present, like the forefront of your mind. You thought that there's a good chance, there's a decent chance, not like a 0.001%, but there's a decent chance that your kids are going to be severely negatively impacted by affirmative action going forward if Democrats would have had their way, I guess.
Did you follow the affirmative action case?
The one with Harvard and the stuff, right?
Harvard? I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on it, but
go ahead.
Lazy Gardner. Don't get into the weeds. He's a lazy gardener. I'm joking. Okay. The reason why I don't care about affirmative action is because I don't plan on affecting affirmative action. And the way that it's been described to me, that maybe this is out of date, but the way that affirmative action was told to me was that, let's say that you have two candidates who are about equivalent, right? Similar test scores, similar extracurriculars, similar academics, et cetera, et cetera. Affirmative action says that if you're black or gay or brown or Hispanic or a woman or something like that, you get, like an edge in hiring. That's the way that affirmative action has been explained to me. Maybe that's woefully out of date. That's the way that it was explained to me. The reason why I don't give a shit about affirmative action, and maybe this is very selfish and myopic, is I want my kids to fucking murder their interviews. My kids are, well, at least my oldest. My oldest is socially brilliant academically brilliant, good at math, personable. I'm probably repeating myself, but he's personable, intelligent, and I'm raising him as best I can to be a good, virtuous man. And so I don't think he's going to have a problem getting hired. I don't think he's going to have a problem getting into school. And if there's like some peer competition where he loses out, guess what? He'll find another good school to go to. Guess what? He'll find another good job because he's just going to be fundamentally such a good human being that affirmative action is not, it's not going to steer his life one way or the other substantively. And then my second boy is more like physically gifted. He seems to be very mechanical. So he's very young. He's only 2. So we haven't really gotten to talk about his talents or figured out how social he is yet. But we're figuring it out. And the truth is, my job as a parent is to raise my child to thrive in any environment. So just because men disproportionately don't do as well as women, or just because white men have a slight disadvantage when it comes to hiring, shouldn't mean shit to my kids, because they're going to kick so much ass and take so many names that if they don't go to Harvard and they have to go to Cornell instead, or if they can't go to Cornell, they have to go to UPenn, or if they don't go to UPenn, but they go to Florida State, I still expect them to kick the shit out of their academics and get a good job. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't give a shit if my kids go to a Ivy League or if they go to a state school, as long as they get in, get a degree, get a job, and kick ass at life.
God, I'm trying to get my memory right. In the First Circuit, the Trump administration appeared and said,
Kay says, Destiny's entire argument is that conservatives run the media and news. I don't think that's true until very recently. Twitter getting purchased by Elon Musk was the beginning of it shifting conservative. And I still think, due to institutional momentum, Hollywood and TV shows and MSNBC and ABC and all that kind of stuff, I think all of that is still liberal, bordering progressive. And I just don't think that's true. I think within the right-wing media sphere, they have a command of the ideology of their tenants because they're fanatical. They're basically a cult. However, I don't agree that media is disproportionately conservative at this day and age. And I would say even 5 years ago, it was inarguably the opposite.
hey, court, look at this data. We think this is de facto discrimination. This is a very bad thing that's happening, right? And then administration changes. It goes to the Supreme Court. Biden's lawyers show up and say, we've looked at the data. We've changed our position. We're cool with this now, right? So, and like, look, there's a deep argument you can make about whether the data was good enough or bad enough, and that's an interesting thing, but it's kind of in the weeds. But that's a pretty serious change in position. Similarly, like in NASDAQ, there was a rule that they were pushing forward in NASDAQ that was going to have board membership have.
Yeah. Like Fatsimo, Biden saying that white people becoming a minority is a source of strength and a good thing. Yeah, like that's progressive cringe. That's so fucking weird. That's so weird. Afro Jew, do I accept that Romney's state health program was the progenitor of ACA? Of course. That's just factually true.
To have quotas based on diversity. And it was chugging along until Trump won, and then they withdrew it. I think it was in the Fifth Circuit and being appealed, and they withdrew because they knew that when they went to the Supreme Court, Trump's lawyers were going to be on the other side. So yeah, in this area.
West Coast Girl says the ACA was a disaster, question mark. I was saying in reference to middle class and upper middle class people. For the working class people, it was probably a godsend. And you actually say the working class argument. Expanded insurance for 20 million people. Those people were working class. No more pre-existing condition exemptions. That's going to predominantly affect working class poor people because rich people always have health insurance. 40 states to adopt Medicaid expansion. Yeah. I would say it was substantively good for the working class. I would say the middle class and the upper middle class, who always had health insurance, therefore they did not deal with the pre-existing condition exemption. And then also, they already had health insurance, so they didn't care. Their costs like doubled and in some cases tripled. So that's what I'm talking about.
The Trump administration made a big impact. And There's other areas where they've done helpful things, though I will share your frustration that they often do it for like the most batshit fucking reason.
Oh, dang, this is so weird. Sorry, this is a really interesting comment that's totally unrelated. I'm a true blue Dem, but I hate being preached to, so I'm not annoyed by Dems, but by their proxies, i.e. the Barbie movie. Bubs, I wildly disagree. I thought the Barbie movie was fucking brilliant. And the reason why, I'm actually just going to pull up some pictures of the Barbie movie just so I can kind of remember. So what happened in the beginning was they were effectively living in like a matriarchy, right? Where the women were the girl bosses and everything was women run, and all the women were pretty and this, that, the other, blah, 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 blah. And the men had to take a back seat. And then there was this like irony where Ken's take over Barbie Land, which was awesome and funny. But the beginning of this, where like all the Barbies have like the perfect same day over and over again, I would have viewed that as kind of like the how do I say this? Kind of like the suburban middle class feminist girl boss bubble. That's what I would say was the thing. And then Barbie is like, hey, have you ever thought about like aging and dying? And then all the other Barbies freak out and they're like, no. And so this is Barbie like trying to deal, like, even though in Barbie Land you don't have to deal with reality, it's her wondering about reality. That's what it is. And so they go into the real world, which is a complex thing. But it shows that the real world is kind of patriarchal, which is kind of patriarchal, but I would say that's, good, depending on your definition. And then the Kens take over Barbie Land and they turn it into a stereotype of patriarchy. But that turns out to be also bad for everyone. And so what happens at the end of it is that Ken no longer has to define himself as a creature that exists solely to impress Barbie. Barbie doesn't have to define herself as a creature that exists solely to impress Ken, and they can just be human. And then I think the movie ends with Barbie going to like her first like pap smear or whatever. And it's Barbie, who's like the quintessence of femininity, accepting aging and dying within an imperfect society. And so I'm sorry for going on like a 5-minute Barbie rant, but I thought this movie was fucking brilliant. I would love to do a movie breakdown of like the themes of Barbie one day, because I thought the Ken patriarchy stuff was awesome. I thought the Barbie matriarchy was actually pretty critical of raw matriarchy and stereotypes. And I thought the end result of Ken and Barbie not forced to be these like icons of gender stereotypes, but actually just being human, I thought it was brilliant. I love the Barbie movie. I don't know if you read the movie differently than me, but that was my impression of it.
Like the example I give is when Robert Kennedy came out, he said we should ban cell phones in school, and I was like, yes, we should. That's a great move. And then he's like, because they're magic radio waves that'll cause cancer in your brain. You're like, well, that's not the reason why we should ban them. That's insane. But it's a good policy. It's just for the wrong reason. So it's not like there aren't things about the Trump administration that I think are good things. There's stuff that's been good. He's just done a lot of awful
okay. Tell me if you disagree with either of these two statements, then the thing that follows, okay? And I don't know your life, I don't know you personally, but my understanding is affirmative action helped the most.
Sneaky Elbow says, isn't there just as much evidence that Bill Clinton is a pedophile as there is of Trump? Yup. That's probably why it hasn't been released, is because it implicates Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, and Donald Trump. That's probably why the files weren't released under a Democratic administration.
White women. And it hurt the most, probably Asian men. Now that affirmative action is supposedly gone in some way, that means it's probably going to help Asian men more than anything else, because now they don't have to, I guess, fight against the same high SAT score requirements to go to school.
Based.
And then all the benefits from...
Let the Asians Asian. We just need to let the Asians Asian, man. We should never hold the Asians back.
White women are not going to be as present. So unless like all of your kids are Chinese boys, I missing something? Like, does the revoking of affirmative action even help your children at all? Or
I mean, it definitely was not white women to my understanding, at least from the data that was presented in that court case. But I mean, if you have something else you want me to look at, I'm happy to. But even if that was true, and like I said, I don't, that's not the numbers that I've seen. But even if that were true, to give a preview of the argument I'm going to make, when I talk to a convoy about socialism, there are also just certain things that are wrong. Like I am not in favor of discriminating on the basis of race. It's not a thing that I think should be legal. And I don't think it should be legal if your reasons are considered good. Just like I don't think that we should remove all property rights from people in America because socialism might have some kind of positive impact on the quality of life. I think there are actually these baseline rights that matter, which is why when Trump shits on the First Amendment, and I apologize, I know you brought up the law firm thing. It's
General, so I will admit, so you say their pitch was that immigrants are eating their cats and dogs. Somehow they don't need a soul search. Okay. This argument works on me, but I am a statistical abnormality. Okay. So I was raised to believe that human beings are human beings, and that even if you're from Haiti, you deserve some level of like dignity and respect as a human being. And especially if you're a decent person, then I shouldn't care that you're Haitian. That's how I was raised, and I'm dumb enough to believe it. So when JD Vance says like, when Trump is like, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, and then JD Vance is like, yeah, lol, if we have to lie about immigrants eating animals in order to gin up anti-immigrant sentiment so we can win and then start mass deportations, that actually is repulsive to me. I actually do value the truth more than I value lying about people so I can punish them through politics. But I'm unique in that respect. As a matter of fact, you guys have already proven that I'm fairly unique even within this chat. Because what I do, like a fucking idiot, is I try to create rules for the way that I think human beings should exist. And then when people violate those rules, regardless of whether or not they're a member of my political or social tribe, I try to criticize them so they go back to the rule set. Like a dumbass, I try to hold consistent rules. But what some of you guys are guilty of, and what the Republicans are guilty of, is if it's the other side, we can hold them to account to the rules. But if it's my side, then I need to make excuses for them. And so you have to understand that the contrarian, I would actually consider Ryan, God help me, to be a part of the contrarian right, where effectively they're not looking at what the right wing is doing. They're looking at what the left wing is doing that rubs them the wrong way, and then they're trying to counteract it. And I think there's a failure in calculation to realize how much evil shit is happening on the right wing. However, that being said, you have to deal with this kind of person. This is Tallybots. This is Sitch. This is Adam. This is Rylan Mullally. This is probably Zero Fucks. I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, but I'm assuming that he has some heterodox perspectives on politics. It's AKA Badasui. I saw AKA Badasui in Sitch and Adams chat the other day, so I'm assuming they're kind of centristy. You have to contend with people like this. And if you ignore their complaints, where if you just say, well, Trump killed 14 million African people you will never see or hear or meet, but this fucking annoying ass progressive is in your face every single day through the cultural zeitgeist, you have to recognize that 14 million Africans are dead. And you have to ignore the fact that this progressive blue hair who's captured in the zeitgeist is screaming in your face every single day. I think it's just human nature that you're going to ignore the people that you can't see, and you're going to deal with the people that you see every day through culture, through the internet, through propaganda, through TV shows, through movies. So yeah, it's just, you're going to have to deal with human nature.
Pisco made this point and he's right. It's a little delicate for me to talk about that, so I'm trying to skirt that a little bit more than I did in the past, just because I probably shouldn't talk about it as much as I was willing to. but like there are certain things that are just worth defending and worth being upset about. The direction the Democrats were taking was violating these kind of core rights and norms. I did think in a way that could hurt my kids, and in a way that just is unacceptable. Now,
Just curious, just as a random thing.
The Trump administration isn't violating these norms, and I hope he loses for it.
Okay, sure. I'm just curious. Have you ever uttered that statement when Biden was in office, that there's a thing that you probably don't feel safe or comfortable talking about anymore because it'd have a direct negative real world impact on you from the administration?
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, not sorry. From the administration, the comma changed it. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
From the administration, no, but that's not exactly why I don't want to talk about the law firm thing. It's just that that's my world. I know these people. My comments should probably not be public on that. But yeah, like, I mean, I think during like 2020 to 2024, for example, I would not have and did not go on shows like this to talk publicly about politics because I thought it would be very, very risky career-wise. Like, so, I mean, that's not from the administration. So that's why I changed it when you added that. But yeah, I felt very constrained in my behavior during the Biden years.
Which is interesting to me because that's mostly a cultural zeitgeist thing. Like, maybe it's just because I grew up in like the internet edgy whatever stuff, but I felt like I could always do whatever I wanted to do and people could just die mad. So I understand that there might have been this like eggshell summer of love, I can't say what I really believe kind of energy. I understand that might have been the way that people felt, but again, I feel like that's cultural zeitgeist shit, not the reality on the ground. The truth is, you could say the N-word in 2020 or 2021. Now, you need to be realistic with yourself that if you say that hard ER in a racist context, people are going to come after your job, and they might still today. However, that's a cultural zeitgeist thing. That's not like a legalistic thing. And so for me, I don't know if I would necessarily blame. I don't know if I would blame the Democratic Party specifically for that kind of vibe. I would blame the progressive culture, though. Yeah, I would blame and fight in the culture. I would actually try to separate out the legalistic and electoral stuff. I would try to separate that from the culture as much as possible. That's just me, though. Grassroots says, gifted 20 Valor Media Network memberships. Thank you, King. Thank you very much. That's massive. That is massive. Wow. Seriously, that's huge. Thank you. I'm very serious. That's massive. St. Patty says, big dick grassroots coming in like Hunter Biden's hog across my feed. True. Just graping. All right. Physically, Dan S says, lol, physically gifted at 2. My second son came out able to move his head on his first day. His first day on the planet, and he was able to lift his head and look around the room. There are things that, like, you know how toddlers run around and they smash their heads into like the corner of every piece of furniture inside your house? There are things that absolutely took out my firstborn that my secondborn bounced off of. And the reason why he would bounce off of it isn't because he didn't do something dangerous and almost smash his head into a frickin' table. It's because he would literally put his arms out and shove away from the thing that he was about to ram into, and then he wouldn't smash his head into it. It was actually like, as a 1-year-old, as a 2-year-old, almost smashing your head into furniture repeatedly, but then having the physiological skill to shove your body away from impending things that are going to smash your skull. It's actually really impressive. I know that might not sound impressive to the people who don't have kids, but watching my firstborn, who's brilliant, by the way, smash his head into tables repeatedly compared to my second son avoiding all the tables, it was actually quite the change of pace. But Simo says, we wouldn't have gotten Dilbert if it wasn't for anti-white affirmative action preventing Scott Adams from getting promoted in several careers. Sure. Maybe I'm just a B student at life, and so that's why I don't care about affirmative action, because I'm not competing for the top tier of jobs. I'm really not. I don't have like 7 Asian friends that I'm competing with for my corporate job. But I think all those guys are douchebags anyway, so. Arb ZDF says, I think the difference is that right-wing media is far more integrated with the actual GOP than liberal media. Yes, was with the Dem Party. See all the Fox News people in the Trump admin? Yep. Also, another thing interesting about Fox News is you have to understand that they concentrated conservative sentiment. You have, when it comes to being liberal or when it comes to being progressive, you have NBC, MSNBC, ABC, CBS. I'm trying to think, PBS. You have like 6 or 7 different options. And so as a result, it dilutes the organizations. Whereas with conservative media, official media anyways, you have Fox News and Newsmax. Newsmax is where you go if you want schizophrenia. Fox News is where you go if you want the corporate Republican talking points. So there's really only 2. And so I think that's why they can outcompete liberal media, is because they're all concentrated within 2 institutions. LB says, Connor is wrong about daily news consumption of right-wing media. Connor, how many atheist versus church shows are there on TV? I don't know. How many people under the age of 40 watch church shows? This is happening. Connor, you're including all the cultural media stuff. Destiny is talking about news and political media. Sure. Vogue says, I feel Destiny here. It feels like a lot for the right-wing stuff gets swept for while the far left stuff is hyper-focused on. I agree it's cringe, but it's like some self-reflection from the right. Well, yeah, but you guys just lost an election. So the right wing's not going to self-reflect until they lose, which I am interested in helping you with. But if I'm telling you something is cringe and it sucks, and I'm trying to help you, you should probably listen to me that for most people, it's cringe and it sucks. Okay? You don't have to agree, but you should think about it. PS Work says, to be fair, it could also be the location based, like the Deep South here. It feels more Republican because everyone here just keeps Fox on. Are you wrong? All right. Anyways, back to it.
Even though the height of all of the censorship and everything online was under Trump, and it all kind of receded under Biden. Do you acknowledge that?
Well, I think that there's the censorship I'm worried about. This is why.
Sorry, real quick. Mr. Universe says actual working class, not you office working assholes. So true. If you're in air conditioning, you are a privileged person in the United States.
I said you pointed out that like by the administration was such a central point, was in the world that I occupied, it was there was complete groupthink on politics. Like in 2016 when Trump won, and I won't say where I was working. Like it was like a day of mourning.
Yep. Grassroots for $10. TGIS is why we need to lower taxes on the rich and tax the poor, so Sim Patty can finally get one of my fucking gifted memberships. The super chats will trickle down. True. Decrease taxes at grassroots hegemon's tax bracket, exclusively that one. Let's reduce taxes. I don't know how much grassroots makes, but I'm assuming it's between 100,000 and 500,000. Exclusively reduce the tax burden for that income bracket to 0%, so I can get more super chats. True.
Like people left work, like people like didn't come back for like the rest of the week. Like it was understood that everybody was supposed to be upset except for like the 2% known conservative. Like there was a total uniformity of politics. Flash forward today, nobody where I work talks about politics because it's understood that there's people with different positions. And that norm is a lot better. Now, I don't know if that's because I changed where I work or just the world changed, but certainly where I was working circa 2020, 2024, it was, there was a strong norm that if you were not espousing a strongly left-leaning view, you should probably shut up about politics. And, that I did. And I have a lot of left-leaning views, so I was happy to talk about those. But my more like right-leaning or centrist views, I should certainly shut the up about. But that's not because of the administration. That's because of the culture of political uniformity and censorship that was prevalent at that time.
Can I just share something really funny? I heard boom, and then somebody crying, and it wasn't my 2-year-old. It was my 7-year-old.
At least in my experience.
Okay. I don't know where you want to go from here. Thing that I...
If they don't know where they're going to go from here, and if we're to summarize the conversation, we're hitting around 2 hours. I think I want to move into the next segment. But I'm going to see what they say next. Let me just see what they say next before I make a decision.
Like, I don't know what to, I'm not sure. I just don't know. I'm so mindful on everything related to this. I feel like Trump could start executing people in the street, and you would be talking to me about theoretical affirmative action that might hurt your kids in the future or something. Like, I just don't understand.
Yeah, but is Trump killing white citizens? You just have to understand that people are fundamentally self-interested. That's all you need to understand. That's all you need to understand, is that even like Ryan is, in my opinion, probably a good guy, right? He works, he pays his bills, he takes care of his people. Consciously or unconsciously, he cares about himself. He cares about people who look like him. He cares about his family. He cares about his community. Now, there might be Black and Hispanic people who are part of his community, or Asians who are part of his community. But realistically, all the people that he would be worried about are probably citizens, right? I don't know if he goes to church, but if he goes to church, they're all citizens. And so Black people are going to face the same level of violence that they've always faced from law enforcement. So, whatever. Who gives a shit? Hispanic citizens don't really have anything to worry about when it comes to deportation. Like, yeah, you might get harassed for being Hispanic, and there's like a 1 in 10 million chance that you might get detained by ICE. But when they figure out you're a citizen, there's like a 99% chance that you're going to go home. And then when it comes to Asians, the affirmative action actually helps Asians out, and it helps white middle class, white upper middle class people like Ryan achieve their goals, and their kids achieve their goals. The only thing that you need to know is that people are ultimately self-interested, consciously or subconsciously. And so I think I'm going to leave it there, actually. Weirdly enough, 33% of this segment is going to be malding at chat about Hunter Biden. But I think the other part of it is that the contrarian right, which I'm going to say Ryan is not abstaining from the left because he hates the left. He's abstaining from the left because he thinks you guys have lost your fucking minds. Because of 2020, because of the summer of love, because of defund the police, because of BLM, because of Hassan Piker, because of sweeping for jihadist terrorism, because of anti-Semitism, because of the social media posts that happened on October 7, 2023. So if you're like a nominal liberal and you can say, well, that's just crazy people on Twitter, or that's just crazy people on TV shows, or that's just crazy people in movies, or that's just, crazy pundits on, MSNBC. Okay. Well, you just got your shit kicked in by a dumbass. So, like, Donald Trump mogged you, bro. He destroyed you. So how about you figure out what the people who criticize you believe, and then you incorporate the good arguments and you reject the bad ones. And if the population is stupid, I hate to say this to you, but the root word of democracy is demos, the people. You have to appeal to stupid people. You have to figure out how to get your messaging across. You have to deal with emotions and subconscious motivations. And if you can't do that, then you suck at your job. Okay? Let's go ahead and end this segment.
And like Donald Trump.
All right. I'm excited to watch Cenk Uygur get 20-teamed by a bunch of liberals and Republicans, but I want to check in with chat because you guys have been pissing me off. Laugh my ass off. See Connor as a blue-haired liberal? No, my favorite part of the movie was Ken Patriarchy. That was my favorite part of it. Bub says, I hate preaching, and American Ferrera literally does a huge monologue about how hard it is to be a woman, by the way. I am one. Yeah, I loathe the Barbie movie. Yeah, but you know what's so funny about I think that was the closest thing to cringe in the Barbie movie, but I still understood the vibe of it. And the only thing that I would say is that there's a male equivalent. Like, dude, actually, sorry, Bubs, I'm gonna have to hit you with this. So we should just watch the Barbie movie together. So within the American Ferrera thing, she talks about, like, which is true, by the way, that if you get married, you're gonna know this. Okay. My wife, all wives, really, they want to be sex goddesses, right? They want to be worshipped. They want to be told that they're beautiful. They want to be desired, all that kind of stuff. But that involves a lot of work, right? You got to work out. You got to eat right. You got to put on makeup. You got to wear the right clothes. You got to do this, that, the other. Well, also, when you're married, you have to be, and you're a woman, you have to be a maid, right? You got to clean up the house. You got to take care of the kids. You got to take care of the dogs. You got to do all the domestic responsibilities, et cetera, et cetera. But then you also have to be a girl boss, right? You because that's what the modern era of feminism calls for. You have to work. You have to be ambitious. You have to pursue all this bullshit. And the truth is that you can't have it all. You can't be a sex goddess and a girl boss and a maid and all of those things simultaneously, because they're all going to pull away from each other. When you're a maid for 16 hours a day because you're a stay-at-home mom, it's difficult to be a sex goddess. And then if you're a girl boss, it's hard to be a maid. Like it's those three things are in constant contradiction. But what I would say that the Barbie movie doesn't understand, but it's a movie written by a woman about women. So I don't think that every movie needs to understand everything. But I feel like this was explored through the Ken narrative, is that men face a similar gilded prison, which is effectively like, we have to be strong. Like, not all the times, but you expect us, if we're not physically strong, you expect us to be emotionally strong, right? Somebody dies, family member dies, you lose your job, whatever. We're just supposed to take it on the chin. We're not supposed to get upset. And if we do get upset, the two emotions that we're allowed to experience are apathy and anger. Those are the two acceptable emotions for men. You can't be sad. You can't be depressed. You can't be anxious. You can't be scared. You can't be a pussy. And if you are, you better brush your fucking self off and you better get angry or apathetic real quick, or else society is just going to pass you by, right? And then also, in a modern context, we're supposed to be good fathers. We're supposed to look after our kids all the time. We're supposed to pick up the domestic responsibilities as maximally as possible. We're supposed to be breadwinners. We're supposed to be physically strong. We're supposed to be nurturing, and all this kind of bullshit. And the truth is that oftentimes the anger and apathy that society encourages within us as the acceptable emotions that we can have, the protecting and earning duties, not only are they incredibly difficult, but nobody gives a fuck. Like, if you can't make enough money, fuck you, try harder. If you're not physically strong, fuck you, start working out. If you're not emotionally strong, fuck you, stop being such a pussy. And so that's where I feel like a lot of the female complaints are oftentimes disregarded by men, because we feel like nobody gives a fuck about our problems. So why the fuck would we give a shit about yours? Right? So yeah, I feel like the only thing that was lacking in that Ferreira speech is and by the way, the movie's called Barbie, guys. It's not called Ken. Is that Ken, or a character like Ken, could have a similar speech. TL1524 says, I wholeheartedly disagree, because the movie ends with the Kens getting just a little teeny weeny amount of power instead of an equal 50-50 split, which would have set everyone on equal ground. But TL1524, that felt like an irony of the real world, where women get some power, but not a 50-50 split, right? It's both, in my opinion, intentional or not, it's a mirror of the real world. DD22E says, to be fair, this guy voted for the Dems the whole time, so it just feels alienated by the far left. Sure. Gen X says, I'm not saying Clinton isn't a pedo, but there isn't as much evidence, or there may be as much as it hasn't been made public yet. He went to Epstein Island 28 times. He probably banged people on the plane and at the thing. So yeah. Anyways, we can start the next segment. Gen X has deleted my comment because I don't want him to respond, but he still sees deleted comments. Do I? PS Works says, bro, has anyone else seen the new Robo Dog bike concept? I want one. What, the one that you ride like a horse? I think that'd be very uncomfortable. It looks cool, though. eDreamcast says, hello, on vacation at the beach. How are you guys doing? We're doing great. We're doing great. West Coast Girl says, wait, I missed the ghoulish point by AKA Badasui that before the ACA, you were incentivized to work harder so you could afford health insurance and more or die. Wow. Yeah, well, that's what happens when you got liberals and conservatarians in the same chat. They're definitely not going to agree. Sarah Usri says, Jesus loves you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thoughts on Ann Coulter? I think she's a female ghoul. Fatsimo says, Connor is in the circles of care heat map meme. Yeah, I am, unironically. Like, but that's the thing is, within the heat map, So for those of you who don't know, there's a heat map of care. You focus on conservatives oftentimes care about family, their community, their blood relatives, their friends, et cetera, and so their locus of concern is here. Whereas liberals tend to have a more distributed heat map where they extend out their care to neighbors, strangers, people in foreign countries, trees and rocks and all that kind of shit. And so people have used the heat map in two different directions. They say that conservatives are effectively sociopaths because if you're not part of their tribe, they don't give a fuck about you. And they say that liberals are lunatics because they care about the feelings of trees and rocks and shit. Here's my thing, though. I am probably temperamentally liberal. I care about the environment. I care about animals. I care about suffering. I care about strangers. I care about all that shit. However, when push comes to shove, I know that the conservative system works better. And I also think that capitalism works basically with the conservative heat map. You don't have to give a fuck about poor people as a capitalist. You just need to pay your taxes. So, you know, that's kind of where let the liberals care about everybody else. Conservatives don't need to care about everybody else. Let the liberals do it. Fashion 40 says, in the last 10 years, the Republican Party has been worse. These people are not realizing this and focusing on the left is bullshit. Okay. Have fun losing. Listen, man, I'm doing my best, okay? Ray Sunlight says, I love Clinton. I want to believe he banged outside of marriage, likely college age, but if it came to otherwise, I'd drop any support instantaneously. Well, there's a strong probability that he had sex with 16-year-olds. So good luck with that. This is happening says, oh no, the culture's bad. Let's elect a tyrant who will crush it with the government. Yeah, but that's like, you guys have to understand the narrative of a narco tyranny within 2020. It was that the Democrats were pulling cops back so random mobs could burn down towns and beat the fuck out of people and murder people in the name of BLM. It looked from, if you didn't go outside, 2020 looked like the Chinese Cultural Revolution. Because you had all these fucking struggle sessions over like, do you support BLM? Why didn't you change your profile picture to the black square? Why do you hate black people? You know? So it was like a mini cultural revolution. It was just cringing on social media, and we live in a liberal society, so it didn't work. But you have to understand that that was pretty fucking cringe. True Zealot says, only people over 40 watch religion as atheist versus atheist shows. Turned 40 and my feed is nothing but religious videos and politics. Get owned, True Zealot. Get fucking owned. Get owned. Trickle down streamonomics. Exactly. J-Mac is a way better oiler than me. Well, tell him to stop being such a pussy and come over here then and oil a little bit. But Grassroots, your service is greatly appreciated as my resident J-Mac. Mr. Universe says, yay, this guy is so damn funny being so damn wrong. If you're a fucking lib and you don't like my fucking takes, you can kick rocks. It's not like, you know, I don't care if you're here and you say smart shit. Smart ass shit. I don't care if you're a smart ass in my chat, but Mr. Universe says, Ina, I'm sorry, if you have kids, you just have to admit you voted against your interest completely. I don't think so at all. I think conservatives, oftentimes conservatives who vote for Trump, they're rich enough that they don't have to deal with all of the downfall of anti-family capitalist policy. Melody says, and the issues that he has expresses for why he didn't vote make us think he's lost his mind. Okay, well, that happens. You have to deal with Talibots. You have to deal with that Ryan Mullally. You have to deal with Sitch. You have to deal with Adam. You have to deal with Sitch and Adam's audience. You have to deal with Tim Pool. You have to deal with Tim Pool's audience. Val reacts to Barbie next week. I don't think I can convince my audience to do that. Mr. Universe says, man, if I was a girl in this age, I'd be the winner winning it all. True. Bob says, I respect your opinion on the movie, but I had to pause every 10 minutes because it was so cringe. I hate that movie. We can agree to disagree. I'm gay, so maybe all this hetero stuff went over my head. Probably. Probably. Okay, we're just going to watch a movie. Bub says, all these things are interesting. I still hated the movie from the opening scene. It wasn't about the message. I hated the execution. Interesting. This is happening, says base Barbie gender critical rant, Connor. I thought so too. I thought it was really interesting. I'm there for the snorkeling. Miss Universe says, bro doesn't know how chat works. I know exactly how it works. I use it how I want to use it. Rises for 78 Hong Kong says, if we recognize people like Ryan Talley are leaning for vibe stupid reasons, then we shouldn't treat the same people as somehow principled, but rather just as tribal and selfish as the rest of society. Yeah, I agree with you. But you need to, Rises, I hate to say this because I'm not trying to disrespect Tallybots or Ryan Mullally, but you have to. You have to figure out how to get these people into your camp. You have to. So, you might not like it. You might not like that you have to pander to people who are fickle and emotional, but that's politics, baby. That's politics, baby. LB says, what the fuck? Progressives and libs don't care about their families? No, it's not that you just care about your families. You also care about trees. Very left-wing people actually have negative emotions closer to the heat map and more positive emotions the further out you are. That's probably true. Hippopotamus says, oddly enough, Connor's statement is why I lean center-left, not especially social, but don't want a hellhole to support a government system which is capitalist and fairly social. Yeah, I want redistributive economic programs so I can make a healthy, happy society. That's what I want. PS Work says, did it? My 2020 feed was pretty calm other than the major event per month thing. Bull shit. Then you were in a fucking lib echo chamber, dude. My entire feed for 2020 was Kyle Rittenhouse and fucking race war. Bullshit. Jonazilla says, do I have to deal with them with all at once or can I fight them one at a time? One at a time is fine. AKA Badasui says, my ACA comment was saying that there's less incentive to work harder because people who want to work less get decent care for cheaper. A good system would scale the cost better. I don't know if I agree with it, but it's fine. Dice5 says, I need you to, without breaking down, explain the Barbie movie as you do the 40K animations. True. That would be fire content. Oh, thank you. No Barbie movie was based and the messaging was great. Excellent. All right. Let's watch IRI versus Cenk real quick because I actually have a Valor Reacts at 1 p.m. So Melody says, I don't think so anymore. Destiny convinced me that we should just focus on bringing back center left people. The No Kings movement was very surprising. Okay, good. Okay, but that's the point, Melody, is that if you say affirmative action discriminating against white men is based actually, if you say BLM and defund the police was based actually, and you just don't understand it, you're too stupid to understand. If you say October 7, 2023 was based actually, you just don't understand because you don't have like a sociology degree. And if you say Hassan Piker sweeping for the Houthi terrorists as a part of the coalition, you're going to lose all the centrists. So, yep. Christian Blair says, Pisco just recently debated Taftaj on whether progressive betrayed trans people. I love Taftaj. She's a good person. PS Work says, lol, I guess it's true then. I don't follow many right-wing news. Also, I had to work, and that took a lot of my time in 2020. Yeah, bro. You're in your own sweet little bubble. All right. Last one. Aggressive Goose says, Destiny's so cooked he isn't capable of doing his bridge building arc. No one wants to bridge build with an insane person. Well, except for me, but that's because I'm crazy and a masochist. All right. Anyways, let us... Yeah, exactly. Grassroots says, look, if you guys drop the terrorism, you can have your creepy horse fetishes. Yep. There you go. All right. Let's watch IRI versus Cenk Uygur before we have to roll into a Valor Reacts at 1 p.m. Paul for 10 euros says, hi, Connor. I recently found your discussions with President Sunday. What do you think of the guy? I think he's an autistic cruise missile who oftentimes explodes and injures himself and people around him. He's pretty smart, though. That's like the one thing. You cannot underestimate President Sunday. He will rip your balls out and feed them to you. Melody says, I agree. We should abandon those people. Also, we should reach out to people similar to you, so center-right-ish. But the names you mentioned, none of them should be reached out to. Those are center-right people, bro. Rises for another 38 says, yeah, treat them like babies and lie to them like how Republicans do since they are fine with Republicans governing. Yeah, exactly. Yep. When did I talk to President Sunday? Long time ago. All right. Anyways, let me do an intro. Let's watch a little bit of this before we do my Valor reacts. So, hi guys. My name's Connor. I'm a science fiction, political, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps veteran, and a Never Trump Republican. And I'm going to be watching Cenk Uygur debating IRI on the Jubilee show. This probably won't be a segment because I'm not going to have enough time to make it a segment, but I want to entertain my current live audience besides just yapping at them in chat. Let's take a look.
We've tried establishment Democrats, complete failures. We've tried establishment Republicans, complete failures. We tried fake populism under Donald Trump, complete failure.
I disagree.
So the only thing we haven't tried is left-wing populism.
you say,
oh, kill me now. I would rather, we might have to watch this tomorrow because this is going to hurt me.
don't try it. Go back to the establishment Democrats. Are you crazy?
You can't vote Democrat and then say that, well, because they still support the rich and the rich still get all the tax cuts, I'm still going to cast my vote, which is the most powerful political weapon you have, to the very establishment that you're on one hand trying to tear down.
That's just weird to mention guardrails against firing people when you rejected a union at your company and fired somebody for organizing.
True based. Even if it's not true, it could be funny.
That is absolutely not true. You could say that if you like.
That is true. Look it up.
Fine. So since you smeared me, let's explain. Hi, I'm Cenk Uygur. I'm host of the Young Turks live weekdays, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. I'm also the head of the TYT Network. I'm also founder of Just Democrats, Wolfpack, and Rebellion Pack, where we're trying to bring the country together. And here I am surrounded by 20 Democrats and Republicans, and I'm going to try to bring them together.
Well, good luck.
Claim number one is that Democrats and Republicans agree on economic issues and try to divide us and distract us with culture wars.
Okay, I'm going to try to argue this real quick. We kind of agree on economics on the outcomes. I do not think we agree on the inputs at all. And I would look at Econoboy. Like, Econoboy is a left-wing dude, and I think plenty of Democrats are more open to social democracy and might even be open to socialism, which they'll always say is like uwu and cute and kawaii, but, you know, it's not. Whereas I think I'm pretty centrist on economics. I actually do think that you need some level of economic redistribution, but there are plenty of fiscal conservatives and libertarians who basically don't think that the federal government should exist at all and the state government should exist minimally as possible. So I think I'm going to have to disagree with this massively. Hi, PS Work.
How are you, Cenk? Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Oh, I follow this guy on Twitter.
Name's Oliver.
Hey, Oliver.
Yeah. So I guess the first place I want to start off with your claim is to first say that I think there's a grain of truth in it. And I think I would largely agree that when it comes to the system of neoliberalism, the system of capitalism, I think there can be a lot of overlap. I think where I would probably push back a little bit is when we look specifically at what policy issues get passed and how they affect people, there seems to be a very big difference. So for example, under the Biden administration, we saw with the expansion of the Affordable Care Act and Medicaid, we saw over 8 million people become eligible for Medicaid who were previously not eligible. If we contrast that right now with what's in Trump's big, beautiful bill, over a 10-year period, that would make
True. Get him, Oliver. Get him.
Between 15 and 16 million people ineligible for Medicaid. So it seems on a crucial economic issue that affects people's ability to, survive, have quality health care, to live quality.
This is actually the least interesting one, and we only have 30 minutes, so I want to find our IRI, but you should find Oliver and follow him on Twitter. I think, if I remember correct, he's kind of like a lib Democrat. However, dang IRI, you got jumped by everybody. Here we go. IRI I've hung out with in real life during the PV events. So I want to watch IRI's segment. But the Oliver's a good follow. He's a good follow on Twitter. I think he's a Democrat who shit posts against MAGA.
Good. I have a lot of respect.
All right, and this is IRI. I'm really important. And apparently his first name is Guy.
For you, but I worry about your progressive populism is dangerous. In fact, to me, you kind of sound like a political pickup artist. Like, just do this one trick and we can
True. Get him, IRI.
fix it all. And to me, it's no different than what MAGA is doing with their faux populism, with the deep state, with undocumented immigrants someone to blame. You're just giving people corporate corrupt Democrats or corporate media as an excuse. And I think you're just taking advantage of disaffected people and not showing them we got to get more involved. We got to invest more. We got to try harder and get good people in there.
So you're saying that don't even try progressive populism. Just go along with the establishment Democrats because they know how to win. That's why they beat Donald Trump twice. Oh, right. They lost to Trump twice. They don't know anything. Their number one thing was, we know.
Except for they won with a moderate. This is the thing that bugs the shit out of me. Biden was a moderate. You won with a moderate. Hillary Clinton is a uniquely unlikable human being. You basically just have to accept the fact that she's like a serial killer lizard person, and then you can like Hillary Clinton. Like, weirdly enough, I like Hillary Clinton now that she's no longer in power because I view her as a serial killer lizard person. And then when it comes to Kamala, not only did you give her, like 4 months to run a campaign, but her laugh is annoying as shit, right? And so killing 14 million people through incompetence, the president of the United States being a woman and having an annoying laugh. I'm going to pick the woman who has an annoying laugh so I don't kill 14 million people through incompetence. However, you have to understand, once again, people vote off of like vibes and emotion as often as they do like rational analysis.
Know how to win. They were liars. They didn't know how to win at all. They got clowned by a guy who's not that bright. Now, number two, we have this giant agenda, $15 minimum wage, all the things that we've talked about throughout the day. Oh, golly gee, we just couldn't pass any of it. Oh, wow. Okay. But hey, vote for an establishment Democrat. Don't get tricked by left-wing populism. Brother, do we actually ever try left-wing populism?
Yes.
Here's the three things we've tried.
Bernie Sanders, bro.
We've tried establishment Democrats, complete failures. We've tried establishment Republicans, complete failures. We tried fake populism under Donald Trump, complete failure.
I disagree.
So the only thing we haven't tried is left-wing populism. And you say, don't try it. Go back to the establishment Democrats. Go back to the donor class. Are you crazy? Let's try the one thing we didn't try. The Bernie Sanders wing, economic populism.
You say the American Rescue Plan that took half the kids in poverty out of it, millions of kids who go to bed hungry, is crumbs, is doing nothing? That is a big deal. What about the millions of people who have health?
Listen, honestly, IRI, bro. I'm not trying to be too mean to IRI because he did just fucking own. He just needs something because it does look like his eyes are closed. My eyes look like they're closed half the time too. So bear in mind, I'm owning myself. He just needs eye drops or something. Have you guys ever done the eye drops? So back when I used to smoke when I was a teenager, there were these eye drops that felt like menthol in your eyeballs. They were fucking amazing. And I swear to God, they like just totally moisturize your eyeballs and let you open them up crystal clear, even when you were smoking tobacco. And so, yeah, I think IRI needs those eye drops super hardcore so he can open up his eyes big and be like more in the game.
Insurance now because of the Affordable Care Act subsidies. No, you can call whatever you want, but the reality is millions of people have health insurance today because of what the Democrats did when they controlled the House, the Senate, and the White House in 2022 under the Inflation Reduction Act and the American Rescue Plan. I can't stand that you call it crumbs. People don't want their whole lives given to them. They just want a little breathing room like our big President Biden used to say.
So you say you're super happy with the 5 to 10% that the Democrats gave you.
It's not 5 to 10%.
There's two things here. Number one, I don't know what economic class you're in, but the average American is not happy with 5 to 10% change. They want giant change. They want the actual, by the way, the Democratic agenda is great. Our populist plank, the 6 most popular bills in the Democratic agenda, are super popular with independents and even with Republicans. But they never, ever do the most popular bills because they're economic bills. And you say that's good enough. But then why not try the entire agenda? Why not go with an economic populist?
Because it sucks and you're dumb. And your nephew is a blight on American politics.
Like Bernie Sanders or Ro Khanna, that's going to give you the whole agenda and actually try. Why give up ahead of time?
Those are great plans, and we should strive for them. But this is a giant country, the 3rd largest country in the world. We have a complicated democracy. We have to do things slowly. I know you don't like that. I know you want to get there, boom, boom, boom.
True.
But people do not want to abandon what they're used to. It sounds great on paper. Would you like single-payer healthcare where you save trillions of dollars and you pay less? Of course. But then when you show people how we get there, they're scared.
I like that our first, of course, is from IRI. Of course.
They're nervous, and they have a right-wing media machine on overload that is scaring the hell out of people. That's what we're up against. This is reality, man. Welcome to it.
So Martin Luther King called this the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. So they
Almost like we live in a republic.
tell you, don't worry, we'll do that tiny bit, and then when you elect us again, we'll do another tiny bit, and 200 years later, this will get done.
Yes, that's how republics work.
Millions of kids
let me
not
explain.
going to bed hungry is
let
a
me
tiny
explain.
bit, Jake.
Let me explain
Really?
in the context of healthcare. They say we're for universal healthcare. You go, okay, great, let's do Medicare for all. Oh, no way, wait too long. Okay, no problem, no problem. Can we do public option? This debate goes all the way back to the Affordable Care Act. They go, oh yeah, sure, we love the public option. Oh golly, gee, we had to take the public option out. There was nothing we could do. Okay, Obama says he had to take it out because the drug companies were opposed to it. First of all, you're admitting that you're giving in.
What a bunch of fucking backstabbers, by the way. They're just getting in the conversation. Cenk Uygur is freaking rattling off. He's freaking filibustering, bro. He's filibustering like crazy. And IRI is getting in 30% of the stuff where he's like, actually, I take offense that you think that these policies are breadcrumbs. F yourself. And then Cenk just goes, why can't we have the whole cake? That's been the conversation so far.
Into the donor class. Then Joe Biden comes in and goes, how can we do public option?
We have 50,
over 70%.
We have 50-50 split Senate with guys like Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema.
You know how you do it, brother? You know how you do it? By trying.
They try. They try every day.
No, but literally
you're
they
not
didn't.
on the inside.
No,
you don't know.
You're stating a misstatement, okay? So Joe Biden never introduced the public option. If you never introduced the public option, by definition, you did not try. No. Second of all, how do you pass it? Oh, the Senate is split. Okay, you put pressure on. So can pressure work politically? Well, we know because Donald Trump did it to Republicans. Now, he did it for his own cause and for his own self-aggrandizement. But anytime a Republican crossed him in the first term, he said, we're going to eliminate Joe Wilson in South Carolina, and boom, he was eliminated.
Dice 5 has astutely summarized modern politics, in my opinion. Would you be more inclined to vote for the lizard people party or the leopards who eat your face party? Yeah, sometimes it feels like that for sure.
Now imagine if you did that.
You want to bully our senators?
Yes, I do.
That's
absolutely.
What you want to do? You want to threaten their lives? What do you want to do to them?
So can I explain?
They represent their people.
No,
Joe
they
Manchin
don't.
represents his people. They sent him there. How do you know that?
Yes, they do. He's from West Virginia, bro. The only reason why he was in office was because he was a blue dog Democrat, Cenk. Just because you talk loud and fast doesn't mean you're correct.
Okay, you're not from West Virginia.
Okay, hold on. They represent their donors.
So BS.
Okay.
It's an excuse.
Oh yeah,
it's
I know.
An excuse.
The donors
it's a
are non-existent.
They're
non-existent. More millions of dollars given to Joe Manchin. He doesn't care about that.
More people donated to Kamala than outside groups in this election cycle. It's a boogeyman, and you're wasting people's time with it.
Nonsense. Yes. You know that Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, after they voted against minimum wage increase, went to the National Restaurant Association and collected checks. They literally work for their donors. It is super literal. And what you're saying to people is ignore it. Ignore the donors. Ignore
them. Everybody who sends money
it's disrespectful to Joe Manchin, and I intend to disrespect Joe Manchin. I despise Joe Manchin. I despise those corporate Democrats who never ever deliver for you, who never even try to deliver.
Why are you holding up your red flags to vote them out when you're actually getting spicy conversation? This is what pisses me off about this thing. Is like just as the conversation gets good, that's when they vote them out. It's actually kind of annoying. Roto eye drops? Yeah, probably. If it feels like you're dropping menthol cigarettes into your eyeballs, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Deliver for you.
We're lucky to have Joe Manchin.
Here's what you say.
All right, hold up. I got to find Z, right? Oh, I think Z's next. Nice.
Let's see.
Hey.
So your claim is that Democrats.
Oh yeah, it's C. For those of you who don't know, this is the person that runs Unfuck America. So I will be going to DC around the 14th and 15th, I think, and I will be attending an event with Unfuck America to meet several prominent Never Trump Republicans and Democrats. So I don't want to share names just because I don't want to, like, I don't know, get murdered. But we're meeting some cool people. As a matter of fact, fuck it. I'll just dox. Where it's a meet and greet event with Bill Kristol and Francis Fukuyama. So should be pretty dope. So don't murder me, but I'll be in DC in August talking to Francis Fukuyama and Bill Kristol, which is exciting.
Democrats don't want to pass their agenda. You've talked about $15 an hour minimum wage. So how can you explain then that Joe Biden did in fact increase to $15 an hour for federal contractors with an increase again this year to $17.75?
Yeah. So again, it's a release valve. So why?
How is
Hold
that a
on.
release valve?
Yes, because it affects a tiny percentage
It
of
affects
Americans.
300,000 people.
300,000 out of 330 million people.
Magnus says, would you agree that you generally advocate for the Nordic model? Nope. I think the Nordic model is interesting. You like both redistributive economics and fiscal conservatism, which is basically Norway. So I would have to take a look at what social services they guarantee. There's just some things. So when it comes to the Scandinavian models, there are some things that I think that you need to reinforce, and there are some things that I think you need to let go. Food subsidies is something that I would keep. Making food cheap is something I would keep. Access to food in public education and high quality public education, I would absolutely keep. I think the benefits far outweigh the negatives. But I think in the Scandinavian model, you don't necessarily have the ability to have as many private schools, or they're more regulated, and charter schools aren't necessarily a thing, and all that kind of jazz. And I would want to keep some elements of innovation from the American public school system, where, yes, we have the public schools, but we also have like charters and magnets and private schools that like push the envelope when it comes to curriculum. So anyways, I would have to do a deep dive. But the truth is, I wouldn't just want to adopt wholesale a social democratic model. I would also want to keep some of the entrepreneurial and independent spirit of America. And I also think that since we were founded as a libertarian nation, these should be opt-out social constructions where effectively, if you're the Amish, I think the Amish should effectively have to pay federal income tax, and that's it. Like, because besides that, I think they're an independent society that functions within America. And I think that that should be an option for people, is they should be able to create enclaves within America that are truly like free in the way that we conceptualize them. And they should be able to opt out of the broad societal social programs. If they don't use the services, you should be able to opt out. Maybe it should be a pain in the ass to opt out, but you should be able to opt out.
So that's why if you actually did a federal minimum wage, moved it to $15, that would move $92 billion from corporations to the average American. Okay, so that's what we want. I assume you want it. I want it. All Democrats want it. It polls at around 67%.
Doesn't this defeat your original point that Republicans and Democrats want the same thing economically? Because I don't think every Republican wants this.
So what I'm saying to all of you guys is, please expect better of your politicians. So when they give you a 3%, oh, hey, look, I did it for 300,000 people. Hey, look, the drug prices, I lowered it on 10 drugs out of 10,000 drugs. Don't say that's good enough.
But
They're
Cenk,
shielding.
you just said
That's a shield so that you don't question them when they
get them, Z. Get them.
They say, oh, I'm not going to do it for everyone.
You just said that all Democrats want to raise it to $15 an hour. That has not been your claim this entire time.
No, voters.
Yeah. Right. But Democratic politicians do too. If Joe Biden didn't want to do it, why did he increase it?
But
for
wait
federal contractors,
so
he didn't have the votes to pass it.
That's exactly what I'm telling you. So what he does is he does it for 5% of people with student debt relief. He did it for 10% of people. He didn't do it for 90%. So in the case of the federal minimum wage, let me bring it back to you. Federal minimum wage. So he says, oh, progressives, don't worry. It's bare minimum. We're definitely going to do it. So they pass it in the House. They bring it to the Senate. Joe Biden does an interview during the Super Bowl right after he's elected. And he says, oh, we're taking $15 minimum wage out of the bill. The Republicans didn't take it out of the bill.
Because
Joe Biden took it out of the bill.
Because Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin wouldn't have supported it, and that's two people in the Senate that you need in order to actually get the bill passed. And if you force them on this one, you lose them for the rest of your agenda, right? He knows that.
Trump did get rid of it on executive order.
Okay,
so now they don't have it at all.
Right.
So you're saying then that you're saying that Democrats and Republicans are both equal in terms of economics, right?
Ooh, get him, Z. That was my point. Get him.
How is that equal in terms of economics when Joe Biden raised it and then Trump took it away by executive order?
Get him, Z. Get him.
But wait a minute. But you're
Oh, no. Owned. You got owned on your earlier talking point, Cenk. You got owned earlier. She owned you. Bro, she just showed you wrong.
saying that even though he took it out, and then when Bernie put it back in, 8 Democratic senators, including the 2 Delaware senators that are the closest allies of Biden, voted against federal minimum wage being increased to $15. So can you not see that they're literally voting against it? They're literally taking it out of the bill. They're literally tricking you. They don't actually want to.
Literally. No, not literally. Actually. Cenk Uygur is a prominent rhetorician in the Democratic Party because he's been doing this for 2 decades as a progressive media content creator. No offense, Cenk. I only got 150 live viewers, but I swear to God, I do a better job than you.
Pass it. They get your vote by saying, oh, I'm going to do it. And then the minute they get in office, they're like, I was just kidding. Take it out of the bill.
What evidence do you have that Joe Biden actually did want those senators to vote against it? What evidence?
2 pieces of evidence. Number one, it passed in the House. And I even talked.
Melody says, am I joining Unfuck America? I don't think I can. I'm too right-wing for the woke TikTokers. Like, dude, I would if they wanted me to be the token never Trumper, Jordan Peterson, anti-Hunter Biden, Burkean conservative. I would be happy to do that, but I think that they would probably lose a few progressive TikTok bros. So I don't think so. Could be fun though. Could be fun.
Talked to Democratic congressmen. They assured me, don't worry, it's going to pass in the Senate. It goes to the Senate and it's out of the bill. Schumer made that decision in conjunction with Joe Biden. So why did Schumer?
Gen X says Amish don't have power lines or sewage or anything. I don't think so. They literally. Thanks for screwing me up, Cenk Uygur. They actually live in the 19th century. Like look at Amish community, Pennsylvania. So if I go here, you can see power lines on the side of the road. But if you look at the buildings, there's no power running to the buildings. They live with 19th century technology. They do horse and buggy. They do like windmills and water mills and all that kind of crap. So yeah, the Amish actually, I think substantively, they do not use electricity. They might use sewers. So they might have to pay a municipal tax for sewers, but I don't know. I don't know what the Amish perspective on indoor plumbing is.
Biden, take it out of the bill. That's my evidence.
So, Cenk, is your claim then that
and then secondly, by the way, when they did vote on it, his 2 biggest allies, both the Delaware senators, voted against the $15 minimum wage. That's overwhelming evidence. Do you think that they didn't ask Joe Biden? No, they called Joe Biden, and Joe Biden said vote against it because he was lying.
it's just not true. But also,
that is literally true, and anybody can look it up.
Are you claiming then that all Democrats that take corporate money are against the people? Is that your claim?
Absolutely,
okay,
yes.
So then why did TYT take $20 million of corporate money?
Here we go again with personal.
Owned. Here we go with personal attacks. Everybody who takes corporate money is owned by corporations. Then why did TYT take corporate money? Owned.
Well, it's not.
Okay,
it's
no
not
problem.
Personal. No,
no problem. No problem. I want to
attack.
answer it. No
okay,
problem.
Please
Okay,
answer it.
yeah.
It's not personal. It's business, bitch.
So $20 million is an investment.
Okay.
It is not here, take the money and then you do what we tell you to do. Everyone has, if you're building a business, you have to take investment to get to the next level.
Cenk, I built
hold
a
on,
business.
if you don't take the investment, you're going to be tiny. So what some leftists say is, no, don't ever build anything. Don't ever take an investment. Don't ever do anything and build a big business. So instead, let the right wing take not only investment money, but direct money like Dennis Prager did, $23 million.
When I do it, it's based though. When I take corporate cash, it's based. You thought it was cringe. You thought it was cringe to take money, but actually it was based.
Take it from the fracking billionaires, all those guys, and serve those guys. Let the right wing grow and grow and grow. But as soon as there's a successful left wing channel, don't take an investment, don't take any money, just be super small so we can't compete with the right wing.
Cenk,
How does that make sense?
I'm pro you taking that investment. I've built a business. I understand that. I just think that it's ironic for you then to sit up here and say that everybody that takes corporate money is against the people, because then you would be against
No,
the
that doesn't
people.
make, that's apples and oranges.
Why is it apples and oranges?
I can explain
Okay, please
perfectly.
tell me.
So should corporations be allowed to exist? Absolutely.
Okay.
Should corporations be allowed to give money to our politicians so they control our government? Absolutely not. No way. So
Okay.
when a corporation does an investment, that's a perfectly logical and normal thing to do. When a corporation buys a politician and those politicians.
Wait. Hold up, though. You're a political pundit, bro. Your business is political punditry. So how is them buying your words, which I do believe are earnestly held, by the way. I'm not accusing him of being a liar. But how is that different compared to a corporation paying for a politician's campaign that they do earnestly support? At least for me, I think the fear is that you're going to get paid to change your principles. I think that's the fear. And we obviously live in a world filled with shills and liars.
Then vote with them. That is a terrible thing to do. I'm actually I'm a capitalist. I believe in capitalism, but I believe in democratic capitalism where democracy checks capitalism. Otherwise, it becomes corporatism and becomes a monster. But I don't want to defeat all the companies, and I certainly don't want to defeat left-wing media companies. That makes no sense at all. You see how it's apples and oranges?
I don't.
One is a company and the other one's a politician.
Okay.
One is normal business. The other one is to influence our government.
Let's talk about.
Oh, good job, Z. Good job. Now, I need to set up. So it's getting later in the afternoon. We are going to do a Valor React segment, I think. Let me go ahead and double check my messages. We were going to kick off at 1 p.m. Ken Harbaugh. Y'all good for me to send an invite? And then I think Neil. Let me send Neil an invite. So anyways, in summary, Z did good. IRI did good. Maybe we'll break that down tomorrow. We'll find more content, but we're going to move into a Valor Reacts. If you guys want to dip out to your favorite streamer, that's cool. If you want to hang out with me and watch a F-18 pilot break down a battle scene with me, then I would love to do that. Matter of fact, I think we're going to do Independence Day. That's what I think we're going to do. So should be fun. Let me check in with chat while we're waiting for Mr. Neil. And let me find Neil's email. Neil, let me invite guest, copy. Let me go to my Gmail. Neil Rickner at gmail.com. Invite. Boom. Emailed Neil an invite. All right. I'm going to hang out with chat while I wait for Mr. Neil. Oh, and I got my EIN. That's awesome. That means that I can start my business. All right. Jonazilla says, so just call it an investment and it's okay. If any Tim Pool or the rest of them knew that. Yeah, I know, right? Listen, I didn't take money from a foreign company in order to foreign country in order to shill for that foreign country. I took an investment. So true. Gen X says, I agree that campaign finance reform is crucial to fixing our problems. Sure. But do you or I or anyone entrenched in the system have the capacity to do so? So for instance, let's say that I ran as a congressman and I got elected. How am I going to be able to ban the 501c3s, 501c4s, the super PACs and the PACs from having political influence? The answer is I'm not going to. So I think we're just stuck with the status quo, and we have to navigate the status quo as maximally as possible. Grassroots says, I give Connor a bunch of money. It nets me zero influence that anyone else has. I'm buying a product because I endorse it. Well, thank you, King. I appreciate that. Mr. Universe became a member. Thank you kindly. Grassroots says, the statement is from me to Connor in the form of money. Well, thank you. So yeah. And I mean, that's the same thing. Like, dude, I get attacked for PV all the time. I get attacked for progressive victory all the time. But the truth is that Donald Trump ran a good economy for 2 years, but I don't think that was through any of his own doing. I felt like he totally fucked up COVID. He jumped back and forth on it. I feel like he was very wishy-washy on geopolitical events where he was a hardline militant, where he blew up Soleimani or whatever that guy's name was. And then he was also a dove, which is not something that I'm really interested in. And then he wanted to do a crazy withdrawal from the Middle East and North Africa that could have seriously hurt or killed people. And it ended up hurting and killing people, right? Then, not only that, he tried to overthrow the government of the United States. So as a Republican, someone who cares about the Republic of the United States, I wasn't interested in electing somebody who lied about an election and tried to overthrow the government of the United States. I know that's weird for a Republican, but that wasn't something that I was interested in. And then I listened to his rhetoric about geopolitical stuff, withdrawing from NATO, backstabbing Ukraine, and I was like, oh shit, if I vote for this guy, he's going to kill people I care about. And then not only was that going to happen, but it got worse. He destroyed USAID, resulting in a 0.16% reduction in the federal budget and a projected death toll. A projected death toll of, sorry, I'm watching a sweet SMG Halo video. I'm excited for it. Of 14 million people. 14 million people are projected to die over the next 5 years. Cenk Uygur, the PAC financier? Andy B says, Amish pay people to run their mail and drive them around in vans. That's cool. Mr. Universe says, there, Connor, made it up to you for thinking I was talking about you when I was mostly hating about the video, but we're all good. I was laughing. Yeah, guys, you have to understand, when I get one guide, I typically attack my chat, even when they're talking shit to other chatters. Fashion 40 says, I'll stay for some Independence Day. Based. Do the fight scene from Step Brothers. Well, I'm going to give Neil a few minutes to show up. And then if he doesn't show up, then, you know, I don't know. Noonan says, are you breaking down the Top Gun Maverick scenes? Of course, but there's 2 F-18 pilots and one of them is available and the other one isn't. So I kind of want to break down one of, you know, something that we're not going to feel bad about for breaking down without the other guy here. And I feel like Independence Day is interesting enough to me and cheesy enough to the other guy that we'll have fun without it being huge. True Zealot says, have you heard about the Terminus Decree update? How well do you think the Grey Knights will do considering they don't get 10 points for being painted? Yeah, the Grey Knights trying to cut through the Custodes to kill the Emperor and or return the Emperor to the throne, I think is like, that's insane lore. I don't understand it, but maybe I'll do more research and think about it more. Melody says, when are we getting that red beard, bro? When I get back from DC. So I hate to do that because obviously somebody spent a shitload of cash for me to dye my beard, but I do want to look kind of professional when I'm in DC because that could decide if we get financiers for Valor Media. Kay says, you're on Wick tonight? Yeah. So if Neil doesn't show up, then maybe I'll just dip out because I'll be back later tonight. So I hate to do that to you because I love you and I want to hang out with you forever. But maybe if Neil doesn't show up in a few minutes, then we're just gonna come back tonight. Magnus says, so you pretty much advocate for the liberalism most close to what we had in the 50s, 60s, and 70s during the golden age of capitalism, high innovation, but with strong institutions and hefty taxes. Yeah, but there's a limit to my taxes, right? I'm gonna say that I think the federal income tax maximum, like we had it as high as like 90% when you get past 400K. I think that's crazy pants. I think the max should be like 50%. And I know what you're saying is like, well, they're not really paying that anyways, and you're not really accepting the 90%. What you do is you take the wealth generated and you put it into investment vehicles, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't think that there should be almost a prohibition about somebody taking a certain amount of salary if they negotiate that between them and their institution. If there's like a multi-billion-dollar apparatus, let's say like Microsoft, let's say that for some reason, Bill Gates didn't want to take compensation in the form of a stock portfolio. He wanted to take compensation in the form of salary. If he can negotiate a salary between him and Microsoft and they both agree to it, why should that be prohibited past a certain threshold? That doesn't make sense to me. It actually doesn't, on like a principled basis. Mr. Universe says, haha, you're all good the way you go over some stuff because I'm a history nerd myself. Good. PS Work says, is it the first Independence Day? Of course. Why would I do the second Independence Day, bro? Second Independence Day doesn't exist to me. Sacred Snow says, as a blooper, throw in the clip of Family Guy parodying the Top Gun flying. Nah. Do it in the Middle East, middle of the react. No. Yeah. Panel debate, minutes dropped. Pisco 5584, Destiny 5136, Econoboy 3527, and Connor 2534. What a bunch of bullshit. Every time I jumped in and started throwing elbows, Wick would moderate the shit out of me. And I talked 33% less than Econoboy. And I spoke half as much as Pisco and Destiny. Get the fuck out of here. No, I'm going to keep the beard. I'm just going to trim it up. Yeah. Kay says, promote the show tonight. Yeah. So, I understand that we're moving into the other stuff. And then I'm probably going to hang out for another 10 minutes. And then if I don't get a response, I'm going to wrap up the show and we'll just try again next week. So the show tonight at 6 p.m., Ukrainian Anna and I will be on Wick TV. We'll be discussing communists infiltrating the American left wing and how she, as an Eastern European, views socialists and communists. So, yeah. Light Up Exer says, Destiny didn't dye his hair blue until like a year or two after he said he would, so you're fine delaying a beard dye. It's just until I meet Bill Crystal. I want to meet Bill Crystal, and effectively my pitch is going to be like, hey, what's the number one right-wing media pundit that you hate the most? And he's like, Tucker Carlson. And then I'm going to be like, okay, I want to be the Tucker Carlson of neoconservatism, right? Because I want to be popular, I want to be infamous, I want to do debates, I want to do interviews, and I want to be as big as that person, and I want to have that big of an influence over neoconservative Republicans. And if neoconservative Republicans need to vote Democrat in order to smash MAGA, then yeah. And then if they need to vote Republican because the Democrats have lost their fucking minds, then they need that level of political flexibility. I understand that might put me at odds with my liberal audience. However, I've said this shit all the time. Paul Watson says, brother, would you vote for Vance over AOC? You can't be too far gone not to return to the right side. So Paul Watson, who has a Trump thing, and I saw him in Sitch and Adams chat. So I think that JD Vance, policy-wise, could articulate policies that I would massively agree with. But you have to understand from my perspective that he lied about his personality in order to get power. And then he, through incompetence that he went along with, he just killed 14 million people. Right? You understand that, Paul Watson? You understand that by cutting 0.16% of the federal budget, 14 million people are projected to die over the next 5 years? Do you understand that? Because I doubt you do. And I have a feeling that when you respond to what I said, you're going to say like, oh, it's just a projection. We don't know that yet. Well, run a hypothetical if you're capable of running a hypothetical. If you're capable of running a hypothetical, tell me how you would feel about JD Vance if you knew that 14 million people died in order for us to save 0.16% of the federal budget. Let me know how you feel about that, and then we'll take it from there. Bro lost to Econoboy in talk time. What a beta. True. They censored Connor for speaking the truth. It's true. What's the Wick debate tonight about? That communists are bad. JL says, great stream. See you tomorrow, King. Hunter Biden is my big Uwu, God, and I fight for him. SB says, will you co-stream it on your channel? Yeah, probably. I like money. Money's cool. Wasn't that Tucker Carlson pre-2016? Yeah, and he had DMs. He had text messages in 2020 where he was like, I can't wait for this to be over. I fucking hate Trump. I think he sucks. And now he's still a king in MAGA. Mr. Universe says Anna will be good to chat with on it because she's actually faced the real communist shit and garbage. Yeah, all her parents and grandparents grew up in the Soviet Union. Yeah. Dice5 says, look, man, as left as we can get, I want to be arguing with people like you. Yeah, exactly. Mr. Universe says, yeah, legit backstabbed himself cuddling Trump, then he legit called him a fascist. Yeah. Yeah. Sneaky Elbow says, I'm so confused. Who's possibly doing what now with Independence Day? So there's a couple of F-18 pilots. I do something once a week right now called Valor Reacts. With Valor Reacts, we just react to movies and break them down from our perspective. And I had two F-18 pilots who were supposed to come on the show and hang out, but one of them wasn't available this week. And so I texted the one that was available and I emailed him, but I'm not getting a response and I don't see him in the standby waiting room. So I'm going to give it another 5 minutes. And if he doesn't show up in 5 minutes, then I'm just going to dip out and I'll see you guys tonight. So I'm just hanging out with chat for a little bit. And if he doesn't show in the next 5 minutes, then we're just going to save it for next week. Christian Lair says cons do the Mott and Bailey. They don't believe the projections. And if you can convince them that they exist, they will say that they don't care because they're poor Africans. Yep. Melody says, Connor, no, if we go crazy, we fully support you attacking us. What was that game where the MC uses alien powers to help, but then asks to be put down when he's too far gone? Yep. I don't know the MC game specifically, but yes, that's the alliance. It's like, we're allies for now. Then after we win this, it's going to get difficult. Rob F says, that's a problem with so many previously normalish Republicans. They've tainted themselves by throating Trump. Marco Rubio used to be a huge USAID opponent. Yeah, and now he's just overseeing 14 million preventable deaths. AF says, Vance is a Thiel Yarvin plant. I don't trust him in his eyeliner further than I can throw him. I mean, I think that's a good instinct. Andy B says, if in order to shift MAGA to less crazy, if Vance did all this, put an adult in the room, I will forgive him for it. I won't forgive him, but I will do a temporary alliance. So for instance, let's say that JD Vance adopts all of my policy perspectives. He's like, bro, I'm still MAGA, but I just did it so I could win politics. I wanted to do good in the world. I actually think killing 14 million people was super fucked up. I believe everything you say. Then I'm like, okay, JD, I forgive you. And then we become best friends. And then the Democrats run Hassan Piker as he's a Marxist-Leninist social democrat who wants to trans 2-year-olds and wants to start the revolution tomorrow. Then yeah, I'm going to vote for JD Vance, right? Yeah. Yeah, Paul says, and then you sing the song I'm a Never. Yeah, if JD Vance and I can hold hands and sing the I'm a Never Trump Guy song together, then I'll forgive him. Right. Oh, shit. This is happening since Connor stopped describing the apocalypse. Well, it might come. Might be coming. Let me thank all of my donors just because I'm not seeing Neil. So, True Zealot. Thank you, Mr. Universe. Rises was crazy generous today. Seriously, like half a dozen donations. Paul rises again. Grassroots Hegemon with the super chat and with the 20 gifted memberships. And our tiers start at $5. So Grassroots gave $100 today. Absolutely wild. Fung Dark for $5. Rises for 78 HK. Rises for 38 HK. JL, Deus Halcyon gave 5 memberships. And Deus Halcyon became a member himself. Seriously, thank you guys. Your support means the world to me. Yeah, F-18. Yeah, F-18 pilots are ducking me like they duck, anti-radar missiles. But you know what? Just because I screwed up the momentum, I'm not going to force myself to do another segment. I'm actually just going to come back for the nighttime segment. I'll be back at 6 p.m. EST to hang out with Wick and to hang out with Anna, Ukrainian Anna, so we can talk shit about communists and socialists infiltrating the Democratic Party. And then obviously I'll see you tomorrow if you guys don't show up tonight. But I parasocially love you. We peaked out at like 160, 170, somewhere in there, which is a good day for the channel. And then we just dropped down to 100 because I was moving into Valor Reacts. But yeah, I parasocially love you guys. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for supporting the channel financially. It's huge. So, all right. I'll see you guys later. I'll see you tonight. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.